Hello! YouTube tells me I'm live and the chat room is buzzing. If only I could see all of the chat. I clearly need to log in as me or something. It's not offering me my own video to read the chat on, which is not good, is it? But I'll find it and I'll catch up with you. So, let's head off over here. Oh, now it says Kim's in first, but I know that's a bald-faced lie, isn't it, Mike?
Yes.
Yes, because Renee was in first, followed by Carol, followed by Kim. But YouTube just goes mental, so what can I say? But hello, Kim. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Peter. Who else have we got? Hello, Paul. And hello, Stephen. Good evening from sunny, not Northern Ireland. Yeah, if it's anything like here, it's blissful. It's raining. It's raining and it's cool. And I can live with the fan off. In fact, the fan is no longer on my table, which is good news. So I'm happy. Thunder and lightning, bit of overkill, but, you know, I can live with it. Oh, hello, Carol. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Renee. Long time no see. Oh, so many. Hello, Patricia. Who else have we got? Oh, Mike's in. Hello, Mike. I'm glad you're there.
Yeah, I'm testing.
I think I'm up to date, but maybe it's lying to me and I'm not.
I've got a problem with me add-in.
Oh, have you broken your toy?
No, it's broken it for me.
Oh, that's good. Have you tried a different browser?
No, it's not good.
Oh, no, I know it's not good.
I can't try a different browser. It's a plugin for Chrome.
Oh, where's my sound effects? Brave, Vivaldi, Chromium, Canary. Get with it. They all use Chrome extensions. Go try something else, Mike. What the next cry from Mike's Corner will be, haven't got any of those installed. And
I've got Vivaldi installed.
Well, why aren't you using it?
Oh, don't know.
See? Domestic. Right, I'm going to find my own channel so I can see the chat. There we go. Now, don't turn the sound on. Right, is that running? If I pause it, can I see the chat? Oh, see, look, Peter says bin Chrome. Sometimes you do need Chrome, but no, honestly, I haven't needed Chrome at any point in the last 6 months. But Mike's a bit slow to move. This is his problem, Peter. He's very, very difficult to move, aren't you, Mike?
Yes.
There you go, you see. Right, okay, in that case, we are good to go. I do believe. This Marooned malarkey, I've actually gone through my checklist tonight. Yeah, you see, you didn't even know I had a checklist, did you? No, I'd forgotten, to be honest. But no, I have. So technically, everything is just going to work. She said. Right, no, let's try it. Oh, there you go. It moved. Awesome. Right, what have we got tonight? We have the week at MacBites headquarters, and what a week it's been. Then there was the drafts copy to Rome action that Carol found last week that was doing her head in. Technical term, that. Pretty much doing mine in. However, I think I've got it beaten into submission with a stick. Sort of. Half and half. So we'll have a look at it and I'll tell you how I got it working. And then we'll see if we can keep it working. But it's sort of good news. It's half good news. There you go. Then we've got the Affinity apps, the beta versions, which are currently out and you can download them if you choose. I tend not to. However, I made an exception this week. I needed to see if the problem was the file last week and the week before that crashed unceremoniously, or whether it was the app. So we have the results, potentially. So I'll share that with you. Then we've got the most fabulous Vivaldi update. Oh, talking of browsers, Mike. Good time to shift.
It's
then
not
we've
working
got
in Vivaldi either.
Well, in that case, the extension's broken or YouTube's having a moment. One or the other. Oh, Carol says moved today. I have moved totally to Vivaldi in the past week. Oh, you're gonna love this update then. And I've made some tiny tweaks to my setup, which I'll share with you as well. Then we've got how we managed notice past tense. Pause for emotion. How we manage Marooned at MacBites headquarters with all the apps that we used to manage it with. Then Mike has got Pivot Tables 102. And I've got Nimbus Note, which I've been working on. Debbie says may have to break down and try Vivaldi. Vivaldi is just fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Right, so what has it done to you this week? My lowest was 480 this week, and I'm looking at it thinking that looks like a pea soup fog. And it was a U2 concert. I could just about make out Bono. But shall we just say it was a good job he had the black pants on and the long hair, so I could make him out from this fog at 480. So we're broadcasting at 1080. Make sure that you are watching at 1080, and while you are there, if you would like to give us a like, that would make a big difference with YouTube, as do comments. Comments make YouTube very happy, and me. And who doesn't want me happy? Mike? See that? Not taking a blind bit of notice. Never mind, I'll get in for that later. So, the week at MacBites headquarters, and what a week it was. We started off on Saturday. It was a bit of a sad day because we would have been going to an ABBA tribute concert at Galsworth Hall. We've been, for the last 2 years, absolutely fabulous. We loved it. But this year's a whole different beast. I think you've got to be double jabbed and share kidneys and stuff, haven't you, to get in? And we've seen it on, somebody took a video on YouTube, and you're not allowed to move out of your seat. So basically you sat in a deck chair in the pouring rain watching it. So no, we didn't go. But what we did to make up for it was we made it ABBA Day on Brooklands 196. So it was back-to-back ABBA all day. Right, and then of course there was Marooned at 7 o'clock at that point. Oh, Patricia, that's fabulous. You're one of the few places give a thumbs up before I watch. I love that. It's so comical in the week to see that it's got like 2, 3, 4 likes on it, and I always think people have done it so it goes to their liked videos and then they can watch when they like. That's how we write that off, but thank you very much. Yes, so after ABBA Day, it was Marooned at MacBites headquarters. And then, because it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday, we went into Brooklands by request, where the theme this week, after 1985, the week before, was the psychedelic 60s. Oh, did we have a blast. Mike missed the majority of his selection because the Asda man arrived. He's never on time, that guy, is he?
No.
I mean, we've had him an hour and a half late, and we had him about an hour early this week. But I was busy during the show, and I continued to be busy on Sunday because I'd been publishing an atomic essay every day for 30 days. But I then realised that on the Sunday, I'd been publishing it about 11 o'clock at night. No, it had to be done by 4 o'clock. Anyway, it was. I made it to the end of ship 30 for 30, and I shipped every day. And my last one was what I didn't expect to learn. I don't like written content. Takes too long. But I discovered that written content's easier to create than I ever thought. So there's a link to that Mike will put in the chat if you want to go read it. And it was book club. Oh my word. It was a new round of book club. We're up to book club 5. This time we have one book, and it is How to Read a Book. So far, it's very old. It was written in 1940. And we were actually warned in book club that because it's so old, it's a bit on the sexist side. You might need to kind of forgive the language. I thought, I'm not going to like this. Anyway, I had read about 4 or 5 chapters of it before, but it's quite difficult to get into. Anyway, that was the book. So book club is usually 90 minutes to 2 hours. This was the longest Zoom call ever. I did ask for guesses on Monday from the folks in the Marooned chat room. 3.5 hours was the longest guess. Reality, however, bit longer. It was a 6-hour Zoom call. It lasted from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. UK time. And that was without actually even starting to read the book. I can see I might have to adjust my schedule here. I did see that Carol, you headed off, didn't you, about midnight? And I'm beginning to think, sage woman. As it got to 2 o'clock, I thought, very, very wise. Very, very wise. But it was good because Connor was there. There is a recording. Connor is the guy who wrote Rome. So, of course, everybody was chatting away endlessly. Oh, it was good. It was good. Although it did get quite... Mike, who's running book club this time, and Connor they didn't exactly come to blows, but it wasn't far off. So it was very entertaining. But yes, a 6-hour Zoom. And there was a queue as well for people to talk. And I'm sat there with my microphone just in case I'm called upon, because there was once and I disappeared and I missed it. So I'm sat there and I thought, I need to use the facilities. Well, I couldn't wait any longer, so I had to turn the sound up so I could hear it in case they called me and dash off to the bathroom. Luckily, I made it back because obviously in 6 hours, you do need a bathroom break. Unless, of course, you've bought something, but there you go. So, Monday. Oh, yet again, we had great plans for Monday because we'd made a sincere promise for Tuesday. We were heading into the studio, but guess what? You know the rain that was supposed to have arrived a week before? Yeah, it was still blazing hot. So I said, Mike, I can't do it. I can't sit in the studio for 2 hours. I can't. So Tuesday it was. But for it to be nice and cool to be in the studio, it was an early start. If you recollect, I only went, well, I didn't even go to bed actually, but the webinar thing, the Zoom the day before didn't finish till 4, and my day started at 4:45. But we got there. We got in the studio, we got out the other side of the studio, and we had a MacBites. Amazing. Just in case you're with us and thinking we're only a YouTube video show, we actually started off as a podcast in 2007. So it's like Groundhog Day. We're actually producing podcasts. It's a miracle. And it was 2-show Tuesday. We premiered that after Marooned. But Marooned was rather interesting because it was episode 499. And Tracy put up a straw poll as to whether I should buy a Shiwi. If you have no idea what a Shiwi is, don't worry. But if you have been on Marooned, you will know exactly what a Shiwi is. So I actually said to Mike, you know that I use big circles on my presentation. It's like a traffic light system. If it's not started, it's red. If it's in work in progress, it's amber. And if it's done, it's green. I do have a blue one, but it means something totally different. Mike looked at that and assumed that the blue circle was mine. And I went, no, Mike, that's a pie chart. And he had to think about it. It's a pie chart, Mike, because nobody voted no. That's what a pie chart looks like. When it's 100% yes, go buy the Shiwi. Anyway, I did, as you obviously know. But Tuesday wasn't over because it was the Apple earnings call at 10 o'clock. And yes, I sat through all of it. Timmy was talking. And I made notes as we went through. So, podcast next week about that. Talk about waffle. Anyway, never mind. Short version, too long didn't read version, made a ton of money. Move along, nothing to say. Oh, I am glad that you never laughed so much as I did at episode 500. I'm glad you liked it, Carol. So Wednesday came, and with it, the weather. Not even joking. It went from boiling hot to thunder and lightning, the like of which I have never seen or heard. Very, very close to home. Seriously, that is our local hospital. We could see the smoke. It was that close. It's Trafford General Hospital, which was the first NHS hospital in the UK, way back 70-odd years ago. It got struck by lightning. It hit the roof. There is a clock tower on the roof, and it hit that. They had to evacuate, and the roof is but a distant memory. But nobody got hurt. But it's like, do you remember when York Minster got struck? York Minster got struck, and the guy who'd just taken over at York Minster, and he was like clergy, had made some comment about not believing in God. And then it got struck by lightning. And the funny thing was with this, they literally just announced a new health czar or something. First woman that is running the NHS, and 2 minutes later, the birthplace of the NHS got struck by lightning. So it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Anyway, then of course, later that day, it was Marooned at MacBites headquarters. We made it to 500 shows. We set out to do 5, you'll doubtless recall. But this was the last hurrah. Make a note of the date. It was sad. Now, all of the thunder and lightning had finished, right? Until we started the show, and then it started again, and we've got rumbles of thunder in the background. So maybe the gods weren't happy with us either. Maybe it was that. But it was an absolute blast. 500 shows from the 16th of March 2020 to the 28th of July 2021. Oh, wow. And of course, we had... This might sound strange, but it worked somehow. We had an audio unboxing. But I did have to prove that I did buy said Shiwi and unbox said Shiwi. So there is said Shiwi. Like I said, if you've got no idea what this is, don't give it a second thought. And yes, I know it's pink. Well, you know, if you're going to buy a Shiwi, it might as well be a pink Shiwi. One day, we did make a video. One day, that will see the light of day when I've sorted it. Oh, it wasn't your straw poll. Oh, I thought it was Tracy. Oh, if it was Sarah, huge apologies. Thank you, Sarah. I thought that was you, Tracy. Why did I think that? Did you post the link? Oh, obviously, I'm losing my mind as well. Which happened, funnily enough, on Thursday as well. Because on Thursday at 7 o'clock, my alarm went off to tell me that I should be in Marooned. So there was only one thing for it then, wasn't there? I went to Slack instead and started chatting with you. No, it was Dee's poll. Good grief, we finally worked it out. Okay, it was Dee's poll. Thank you, Dee. So, on Friday, now, just because we have new people with us, and they have no idea how insane life is here at MacBites headquarters, so I'm doing a bit of a recap. You'll remember, this is a blast from the MacBites After Hours past this. Who recalls the frozen chicken discovered at the pub, on the wall at the pub? This was early one morning when Lola went out for a walk and it was snowing. About a week later, 2 chickens on the wall at the pub. Not the same chickens. This photo has been analysed and it's not the same chicken. It's got a different weight and a different sell-by date. Not the same chicken. So... that was weird as it went. And then, who remembers, there was a piece of cooked chicken on a flagstone in our garden next to my car. And our first thought was, if you remember, that someone was out to poison the dog. There was at the time, this was October. No, it wasn't. It was April. No, it wasn't. That was the repeat. I think it was about February. There had been a spate of that. And it's happened before when Maya was here. So we set about surveillance and discovered nothing. We got a replay off our CCTV. We watched it. We tried the nearest camera. No joy. We saw it land at 3:20 in the afternoon, but we needed a different angle to see who had thrown it. So, back to the CCTV. I did spot a fleeting shadow, but there was no person there, if you remember. We went back to camera 1, and there it was. It was a low-flying bird that dropped it. You couldn't make this stuff up. The next day, Lola headed out. So we've had frozen chicken, cooked chicken, and then eggs. And yes, we did ponder, what came first, the chicken or the egg? She was thrilled. It was all over the pavement. Now, if you're wondering why we're going back over this, well, obviously, something new this week. We're heading on to dessert. This was this morning. Somebody had left a banana in exactly the same place as the egg. Do you think they do it on their way home from the pub so they've got something for breakfast the next day?
Could be,
it's just totally bizarre. But that's our life here. Yes, the frozen chicken and the flying chick. Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't a cat. No, it was a bird. We actually saw the bird drop it. But I said to Mike, we need to make sure these cameras... You wouldn't think you'd have to have a camera pointing up at the sky, but here, oh yeah. We thought of a fox that maybe had taken out of somebody's bin, or a cat. But no, it was a low-flying bird. And what the bird was doing with a piece of cooked relative, I don't know. But it dropped it squarely in our garden. Oh, you couldn't make this stuff up. Oh, living here is nothing but an adventure. Right, drafts copy to Rome action. This had me as flummoxed as it had Carol. It's one of those things, even if you don't use drafts and you don't use Rome, the principles of how you go about trying to troubleshoot it all apply. So let's have a look at it. Right, I have set drafts up, so I've got 6 test things in there to try and get into drafts. Right, I tried it last week, and the first time it worked, and then the second time it didn't. It didn't work at all for Carol, first time or anything else either. So I thought, right, what's the commonality here? Something's got to be going on. Now, what we're talking about in terms of an action is this action over here, which is the copy to Rome action. So the first place I started was actually looking at what this is supposed to be doing. And what this is supposed to be doing is fairly simple. It's copying the draft to the clipboard, and then it's pasting a URL which will open a browser, and it's adding a quick capture tag. It's not rocket science, this, so why is it failing? The other thing it's doing in here is, after success, it's archiving it and assigning it a Rome tag, meaning it's archived and I've sent it to Rome. So that's the idea of what it's doing, only it's not doing it. So I set about investigating it, and this afternoon I got it working perfectly. I thought Carol will be thrilled. And then I did one thing and it stopped working. So I thought, aha, I see what's going on. Now, I don't know how to fix what's going on, apart from doing what I've done now, which is, if I go into, say, Alfred, and I put a link in here that is Rome Research, what browser will it open in? And for most people, it will open in your default browser, whatever is your default browser. And if you've installed Firefox and Safari and all the others, they constantly fight with each other. I'm not the default browser. Would you like me to be the default browser? And the answer to that is always no, as far as I'm concerned. Because I have a thing called Browser Ninja. It used to be Browser Fairy, but that went subscription. Not happening. So I moved to Browser Ninja. And what Browser Ninja does is let me decide what browser is links are passed to when you click. So for example, in drafts, which browser handles it? So all Notion links go to Vivaldi. I have no idea why the icon isn't working, but trust me, it's Vivaldi. It's just not showing. Everything for Creative Market goes to Chrome. And I have configured the Rome Research links to go to, that's Chrome Canary, isn't it? Google Chrome Canary. It's not the browser that's the issue. It's the fact of something in the browser, which I'll show you. But I'm showing you this because this is how I configured it to open in Canary. Because if we do it any other way, it's not going to work. I have tried it in Canary, it worked in rehearsals, but I've just gone through the list of everything I'm doing tonight, and I could say this about all of them. It worked in rehearsals. It's going to be a real jeopardous night. So this technically should, when I run it, open Chrome Canary and do what it did this afternoon. So fingers crossed. So I'll double click it. It opens up Canary. That's Canary, the homepage. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is that. And this is quick capture. So that's what you should be seeing. If you're not, don't panic. I'll explain why not. But that's what you should be seeing. And what you then get is it's picked my graph, which is the equivalent of a database, and it's picked a page, and it's got the text that was in drafts, and that's it. And all I need to do is say, yeah, I'll add that block. And that moves it down to this section below, and it says notes left to sync. And at that point, you're done. So I can close that. And then go back for test 2. Now, this was where it failed last week. We added note 1, and then we tried to do it again. It didn't work. So let's double click and do it again. Yeah, I'm not interested in the slightest about what you're yakking about there. Just get rid of it. Oh. Right, so I've got number 2, and I can add that block, and that goes underneath. And rinse and repeat for all of the others. So I tested this about 5 times to make sure it carried on working. And it does. You just need to add the block. and then close the page. And what's happening in here is these are being automatically archived because of the setting in the action. So up to number 4, double click that. Technically you can go in there and add some more text if you want to and hit add block. So far so good, and I'm closing this down between each one. So I will pass over the last one that I want to see, which is test 5, and I will add it. Right, here's where you then have a problem. Right, I've hit add block and it has added it below. So I've got the 5 that I've added. Right, what I then did was what I do on mobile. And what I do on mobile is over in the top right hand corner, you have this full site option, which I am not clicking. What that will do is take you to the full Roam site. Now, if you've forgotten what Roam looks like, it's very text-based, and that's not the Roam I want. I've got 2 Roams and I want the big Roam, the big icon. Right, that is what Roam looks like. So that's my Roam today. They have not been added to the daily page here, which they should be. But they're not because it says here, notes left to sync. These aren't synchronized. So I'm thinking, right, well, how do I synchronize these? Because there's no synchronize button. And they will get synchronized if I click on full site. If I do, there'll be a message and it'll say, do you want to synchronize these things? And I'll say yes. And that is when it will stop working. It will synchronize all these notes. But in saying full site, the next time I try and add something via that drafts extension, the action, it won't work. What will happen is it will open Roam and it will open it at the daily page. So just to see this, I'm going to minimize that one and I'm going to go back into that Browser Ninja thing. And in the Roam research one, instead of sending it to Chrome Canary, I'm going to send it to Vivaldi, which was the one I started testing in and is open on my screen. So I'm going to take this last one and do a copy to Roam. Do not make me out to be a liar. So what's happening is it's on the other screen. Come on. Oh, good grief. Right, that's not good either. But just to show you, I need to get to the right place first. Right. So this is loading in. Oh, good grief, it's actually working. Oh my God. I didn't do this before. Right, this is what you should see. You should see this sync quick capture notes with workspace, and those are the ones you've just seen me do, even though this is in a different browser. So I'll say quick sync and it will sync them underneath here. That bit didn't happen before. I was showing you that to show you that the notes weren't there. That's interesting. I expected this to fail spectacularly, not work perfectly. Oh my God, oh good grief. Right, I'll leave that to one side then and we'll go and add another note. Shall we say final test 1? Because there's bound to be a final test 2. Right, let me go back into here. Let's leave it as it is and see if it works, because I don't think it will. I'll bring this on as soon as I've double clicked it. Right, so it's going to go into Roam is the plan. So what will happen? There you go, it doesn't work. So it brings up Roam, it shows you what you've added, but the 6th one isn't there, the final one's not there. And it seems to be because you've processed those quick notes into here, your Roam page in Vivaldi doesn't then understand it needs to go into quick capture mode. And that's why I showed it you in Canary. So if we leave Vivaldi out of the way and we bring this on and we switch that back to Canary, in Canary I have never processed the notes into it in Canary. Where on earth is stuff going here? Right, so if I go back to this one and we make another note, this will be final test 2, obviously. Right, and I process that, it should whip into Canary and it works. So I think the trick to making this work, as you've seen, is have a browser that you have not clicked full site in the top right. And then add the blocks, but just close them down. Don't worry about that browser at all. What I'd say from what's just happened is, this is final test 3. If we do that again and it works, which it does, so there's the one left to sync. These notes left to sync will sync by themselves in the end. They go into a kind of suspended holding area, and there's a chance they'll sync by themselves. But they could also disappear. So what I was doing was forcing these notes into Roam using this full site option at the top. But if I touch that in Canary, I won't be able to use Canary for quick capture, just like I can't into Vivaldi, because I clicked that full site button. So does that help, Carol? Where can you download Canary? Right. Download Chrome Canary. It doesn't matter what browser it is. It really doesn't matter. But that is Canary there. Let me get that in a chat to you. Which is... I can't tell here which is my browser. There we go, live streaming. Right, let's pop that in there. It doesn't matter which browser it is. It just has to be one that you have not clicked that button. Do not click full site on the browser that you want to use to send these things into Roam. I tried this with Vivaldi and it was working fine, and then I clicked the button, and then Vivaldi stopped working. I thought, I think I see what's going on here. So I opened up another browser and tried it in there, and that was working fine, again, until I clicked the full site button. So I thought, right, I'll use Canary and Browser Ninja to forward anything that I want to go to Roam to always open in Canary, and that'll solve the problem. Now, what you did just see that I did not expect that at all, was I expected these notes eventually to be able to push these notes in, but I didn't expect in here to be faced with the message that says, do you want to synchronise these notes? Now, it could be that will come up, so I'm just refreshing the page. It will come up, by the look of it, after a certain amount of time. So you might have to leave it 5 minutes, and then you can say sync with the workspace, and it adds them in underneath. So, Carol, we have a half solution. Right, awesome, that helps Carol. Right, Patricia, you feel dense, you don't understand why you would need Canary when you've got Apple Notes. If you're using Apple Notes, if you're not using Roam and you're not using drafts, then it's totally irrelevant. The principle of this is, though, how to troubleshoot something, because this was just something that wasn't working. Full stop. Carol couldn't get it working at all, had never seen the sync thing. I saw the sync thing once, didn't see it again. So it's a troubleshooting thing. You know, how do you even start troubleshooting it? And the first thing I did was to test the problem in another browser. And that worked once. And I thought, well, this is weird, because that's what happened last week. So it's a troubleshooting, how you would go about it. But if you're using something else, not a problem at all. Carol says you just have to learn to be patient. I think it should be instant, to be honest, personally. It also gives you the issue that there is a Roam client. So this is how I use Roam. Let's get rid of these daily notes in here and down in here, because we don't want to look at that either, do we? I'll get rid of these. This is my daily notes. This is how I actually use them. So it says Roam Research at the top, and it's got a dark menu bar. That is not the Roam app. That is a site-specific browser hosted by Edge. And I just like the dark top on it. The actual Roam app is the smaller icon, and it's got a light bar on it, and I don't like it. I can't be doing with it at all. Just the difference that dark bar makes. No, I can't be doing with it. So I don't use the app. So luckily I am actually in a browser. But if I was in the app, heaven knows what would happen. Right, I will not touch that full site link ever. The thing is, if you open up a link, it will open it up in the full site, unless it's a capture. The full site link, you're supposed to see on mobile. And on mobile, it does come back, and it does work on mobile. It's the desktop that's got the problem. So it's just really how you go about troubleshooting something. So in my case, I tried about 19 different browsers and then realised what the issue was. But it doesn't need to be Canary. That was just one of the ones I had left that I hadn't actually used. So I have a whole range of browsers, trust me. But that was just how to troubleshoot something if you've got some kind of issue with it. One other point for Carol was, I also went to think, is there something wrong with this action? And when I did, I found another set of actions called Roam Research. And this gave you a couple of options. You could format it. So you could send the draft to Roam with the formatting, but you could also copy that and then just paste it in with the right format. So there is a thing called Roam Research, and it actually is a group of actions that gives you 3 actions, one of which is to send it to the Today page. That had exactly the same problem. So that told me it wasn't a fault with the first action. It was something that was intended to happen or was happening accidentally between drafts and Roam. And that's just how you troubleshoot something. So at least we've solved a problem for Carol. I'm a magician. It's just a matter of working out what it's doing. But when you're looking at 2 actions and they're not doing the same thing, but the result is the same, then obviously it's got to be something else. But there isn't anything I can actually point to say, right, well, it's actually X. It's how something is interacting with something else and having an unforeseen consequence. But it will work if you do that. Paul says, great troubleshooting, Elaine. I suspect the developers don't test this combination that much. I would have suggested with the developers of the action that they're probably working on mobile. And on mobile, it works all the time. So there we go. Right, Affinity app betas. This was the other thing last week that wasn't working. So we're heading off into the second thing that wasn't working last week. Right, but hopefully better news this week. So I have the Affinity Photo beta. And I have the offending file. Now, if you remember, what was happening was I wanted to copy individual items like that little item there. I wanted to copy it and then paste it into another app, or paste it in, well, in this case it was Publisher, and I may have wanted to select more than one, but let's just start with it simple, 1. And I wanted to copy and it crashed. Well, as you can see, what I'm doing now is meandering around here and copying, and it is copying, that's the boot on the left, and it is not crashing. So it wasn't the file. That ruled out the fact it was the file. I'd pretty much ruled out the file anyway, because I'd tried it in Photoshop and it was fine in Photoshop. But it was crashing Publisher and it was crashing Photo. But I'd watched the video about the new features that are in this beta. And one of the things was in Affinity Designer, they'd enabled something like 250,000 layers or objects. And the performance was way better. So I thought, right, knowing that, if I go into this beta one, will it allow me to copy these individual items, either like that one individually, or the way that I was doing it was there is a group. And the group, if we toggle that off, that's all the items. So one of the things I tried doing last week was copying that, and it went mental. And every time, and it was predictable, oh, here we go. It's having a think about it. Don't you dare crash, because you did not crash on me all week. Right, it had a think about it because there's so many layers, but it didn't crash. So if you are trying to work with a file that's giving you problems at the moment, what you could do is download the betas. So can you post in the links for where you will find the betas? Because each one's slightly different. So there are 3 betas available, one for Photo, one for Designer, and one for Publisher. The only reason that I don't play around with them on real stuff is the book that we're working on, that this needed to go into, needs to work. You know, I do not need to find that there's a problem with it. The beta versions often don't use the same file format. They tweak them slightly. So if I were to create the layout that I wanted in Publisher and I used the beta version so it didn't crash, which obviously would be a good idea, when I save it, if I then try and open that file in Affinity Publisher, it won't have it. It'll say this was created with a newer version of Affinity Publisher. Do you want to use that one? And I could get myself into a rare old mess because I don't know when these versions are going to be released and when that will be official. That's exactly right, Patricia, which is why I leave them alone. I will download them and test them, but I won't put stuff in it that's in progress stuff. Because, you know, I could design a MacBites poster and need it on Tuesday and come to it and they've changed the beta and the file won't open. So don't do that. Don't do that. But if is in, like in this case, where it's actually crashing and you couldn't do a thing. I could copy from here and then paste into the other version. It's the fact, it proves the point that the beta versions are way more stable in terms of the amount that you can copy and paste. Which was all I was trying to prove, is it or not? Because if it was, then I won't bother Affinity with it. But if the same was happening in the beta versions, then I would have done, and I'd have said to them it's happening in both versions. So, problem solved. Just now need to wait for that to be released to actually get on with it. Why do they tease me like this? The video for the beta has been out at least 6 weeks. So I think this has been in beta for about 8 weeks up to now. So, oh, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Oh, and they said it will never work even in future versions and updates. Oh, naughty, naughty. So that's why I leave it alone. If it's a copy and paste, it'll work. But I wouldn't rely on a beta. Which might sound strange because when Affinity Publisher came out, it was in beta and it was in beta for 10 months. And I made all kinds of stuff in it. But that was because there wasn't a standard version. There was only the beta. So it was the beta or it was InDesign. So it was like, that's fine, I'll use the beta. But once there are beta versions and release versions, then you do have to be incredibly careful. But if you have the same problem I did, there's a problem solved. Don't we like it when there's a problem solved? It does make a change, doesn't it? The other thing that I was thinking about was I could try it tonight and it fall over again. And if it had have done, then it must have been something that I was doing at the same time as I was doing whatever I was doing in Affinity. So obviously I've got Wirecast running, I've got audio recording, screen recording, I've got all kinds of things running. And it could have been that. But no, it's not. I was right in the first place. Right. Oh, Vivaldi. It is just so good. It's unbelievable. I do love Vivaldi. And I am queen of the browsers and have been for quite a while, haven't I?
You are.
There were tears before bedtime when Netscape Navigator died, because I much preferred it to Safari. And you know, that didn't actually die, did it, till about 2011, something like that. But there's two main arms to the updates here. So we'll start with tabs. There's always been amazing things that you can do with tabs in Vivaldi. Now, that might sound really strange because like a tab's a tab, isn't it? But it's how you work with them. Now, we already had different ways to work with tabs. The new way is called an accordion. But for that to have any sense, you'd need to know about the other ways of working with tabs, wouldn't you? So you either have the tabs where they're just the tabs, like normal humans, like mortals who use other browsers. But you could also create compact tab stacks. So if you look at the one on the left where it says Unsplash, there's 4 lines above it. There's what looks like a tab and then a line on the left and 2 lines on the right. That is a compact tab stack. So it's where you have multiple tabs compacted together under one tab, and you navigate between them by hovering over those little lines. Now, I must admit, I can't really work that way. I don't like that. Now, it could be because my tabs are on the left. I put my tabs away from the top on the left in December. And my rationale was you can only see so many tabs if you're going right to left. I can see many, many more if they're top to bottom. Now, obviously with this stacking, not necessarily so. But I had a lot that were pinned. And when they were pinned and they're horizontal like that, all you can see is the icon. And the icon was tiny for a start. And sometimes the icon was the same. And then you just had to make a judgment as to which tab you wanted, because the icons were the same. So you'd think that would have helped, but that is not for me, that compact tab stack. But it might be for you. Right, the second way of working was that you have multiple levels. So, well, in this case, 2 levels of a tab stack. So at the top, you have your primary tabs. But then the Unsplash one has a 4 on it, and when you click on it, it opens up another entire row of tabs underneath it. So the 4 tabs that were folded up in that compact one, they are the same 4 tabs, but that's the tiny way of looking at it, and this is where you have 2 levels of tabs. Again, that's not for me. definitely not across the top. And to be honest, vertically, it didn't particularly work for me either. However, the new way of working is perfect. Right, now you've got what looks like a collapsible group, and that's exactly what you've got. It's an accordion tab stack, which means that there is an arrow, a disclosure triangle, on the right-hand side there that will expand that and contract it. To me, that's the best of both worlds. It's not taking up room vertically, and it's not taking up room, in that case, horizontally, or in my case, vertically again. It's just much more compact, and yet you can get to things. It also has a couple of extra benefits. So that's one of the main new features that they've got. So let's go in and actually have a look at it. So I do have Vivaldi, but obviously it's a working browser, this. So I do actually have stuff in it. So I had tabs open for the copy to Rome, so I can afford to lose that. We don't keep wanting to go down to there. I've got that one. I've got the betas that we've been looking at that we've already given you the links for. So I will close these. And if you notice what's happening, as I'm doing this, I'm not clicking anywhere. I'm just making a mouse gesture. Love mouse gestures. They're fabulous. Right. What we've actually got here, we've got the stuff that I have open all the time at the top, which is these 5. Sometimes 1 or 2 more, sometimes less. But in essence, what we've got here is what I'm working on. So I've got my Marooned at MacBites headquarters tab. I've got my After Hours 139, my MacBites 140, and my After Hours 140, which is next week. I've also got some extra stuff down here, including the live stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out of the way entirely, so it's not in here. And lose that. Right, the first thing to notice, we have a line here. There. That is a separator between the pinned tabs at the top and tabs that I can close, that I'm not worried about underneath. So I have that line there just to delineate. These are the tabs I have open all the time at the top, and the ones below that are my working tabs. So that's the first thing. The one change that I made this week is there. That is the active tab, and it's darker than all of the others. I wanted it to actually be lighter because I wanted this bar here. So this entire tab bar here, I wanted that to be the same colour as I've got it at the top. So those bits there, to me, should be the same colour. However, that's not the way Vivaldi works. And what was happening was I created this tab bar and the top bar to be the same colour. That was fine. And then I couldn't work out which was the active tab. So if it looks fractionally different, I've changed this colour slightly so I can see which is the active tab. So if I make that the active tab, this is then darker. So that's what we've got there. But below that, we have my blog site, elainegiles.co.uk, and you can see next to it, it says 7. So I already have an accordion tab set up there, a tab stack, with the disclosure triangle at the bottom. So I can instantly see that it's a tab stack. And if I hover over it, I have enabled thumbnails. So I can even see which one of these is which. So if I wanted to look at the Affinity Publisher Training Series, I can do that, get straight to it, and it opens up all of the others over here. But I can leave it on that page and collapse that. I don't have to go back to the page I was on. I can collapse it. So a few things to work through here to make sure this is working for you if you want to do it. How to get the tabs on the side? Well, in the preferences, which we've talked about the preferences, these go on forever. Oh, these go on forever. Seriously, if you were looking at all of the preferences, the display all down here, just look at how many preferences there are. Now, you don't have to be bothered with them, and you don't have to even know where the preference is that you're trying to change, because you've got this search at the top. So if I was looking for tab on the right, in fact, if we just left it at right, it would find it as where the panels are, the quick commands, the tabs, and anything to do with holding down right mouse buttons, etc. But the best way to do it is to go to the tabs section. Everything you need will be in here. This is just fantastic what you can do with this. So the default is at the top, and you could put those at the top. Let's pop them at the top so we can see what they look like. That's hideous. So my problem with this, if we look at it, is that's marooned and I can see it. But there's 2 blue ones that are after hours shows, but which is which? Because when they're pinned, you don't get any text to guide you. So I would have to know that the next show is further to the left than this one. So because of things like that, I just can't be doing with it. So I thought I'll try it on the right and see if on the left and see if it's any good. It's fabulous. Love it. So I leave it set to that. But you can also put them on the right or put them on the bottom if you want. That's the thing with Vivaldi. Anything you want to do, I guarantee you'll be able to do it. There will be some way. I wanted, for instance, to move the close button position before you could do it. And there was some CSS that did it. And I'm like, it just blew me away, that. There's never been one thing that I wanted to tweak that I couldn't tweak. So in this tab section, initially, you could even choose not to have it. You could actually hide the tab bar completely if you wanted. I actually do that. So I'll just get this out of the way and just show you that I do that because I lose horizontal space with this. So I have a shortcut that actually just hides that and toggles it on and off. And it's a shortcut that I use all the time. And it enables me to focus. I don't have to close something down, but if I'm working on something like for today's show, so these are the things in here for today's show, and I want to focus on it, I just close that off. Gives me a little bit more space, and then I can start to work on it. And when I want to do something else, I bring them back. I love that. Absolutely love that. Right, let's get back down to there and bring that back on. So you can set up a new start page. You can have it as the home page. You have a blank page. You can put in whatever you want. You can decide with the tab activations whether you want them, what order, how the tabs are handled, when new tabs appear. It's unbelievable. Those are my settings. Some of them I've changed. Some of them I haven't. But that works best for me. That works best for me. This one down here, for instance, that was why it kept going back to the YouTube page, because that was the last one used before the one that I was on. So when I closed the tab I was on, it went back to the one that was most recently used. But you could have that work in tab order. You could work up the tab stack or down the tab stack. You'll notice it says activate above and activate below. But if I had this set to top, that would automatically say activate left, activate right. So this is just so good. You really do have so many options to go at. Right, moving down a bit, you've then got the tab display. And this is where it's important that you have this set correctly if you want to do what I've done with it. So for instance, do you want to show the pop-up thumbnails? Now, the pop-up thumbnails you have actually seen. As I hover over this, these are the pop-up thumbnails. If you had that at the top, you would get the same popover, but it would drop down from the top rather than being out from the side like this one. But that's what the tab thumbnails are. Don't know why these aren't loading. Could be Notion, because all of those are Notion pages. They usually do. But you can see these definitely do. And it actually gives you the text here as well, so you know exactly what you're looking at. Now, if you don't have that enabled, then you won't see it. So first of all, if you're looking to have a pop-up thumbnail, make sure there's a tick in the box. That says show the tab thumbnails. Now if I do that, you can actually see them in the sidebar. So if you want to see the tab thumbnails all the time and scroll up and down and actually use it like that, so for accessibility purposes, that's amazing. But I want to see more tabs, and I'm quite happy that the icon and the text will give me all I need to know where I'm navigating. You now have the display close button, as it says, on the left side, or you can have it showing permanently. And what that is referring to is if I wanted to close this down, I don't see a close button until I hover over it. And when I hover over it, it appears on the left, over the top of the icon, and then I can click that to close it. So that's what it's referring to in here. Do you want it showing on the left-hand side? So there is now an option for that. Or would you like it showing permanently? So if you do that, instead of the icon, you'll actually see the close buttons, which, no, I don't. And if I take that away and turn it on permanently, then it's on the right-hand side. So it's a choice whether it's on the left or the right. You've got all sorts in here. But the most important for what we're talking about are the tab features, which is down in this bit. Right, you need to have enabled the tab stacking, and by default it's disabled. So if you're thinking I can't get that to stack, which Sarah's saying, you need to have it enabled in here to be able to do it, and you need to pick which type of tab stacking you would like. The compact one, which I don't like, the 2-level one, don't like, or the accordion, in which case make sure you tap the radio button next to accordion, and you do have the option to auto expand. If I take that option away and I go back into here and choose one of these, you'll see what happens at this point is it's navigated to that page, but it hasn't automatically done that and opened them all. To be honest, that's probably what I would want. So I would change that option and not have it automatically expand. So you need to go into your preferences, you need to click on tabs on the left hand side, and then this bit here is where the magic happens. So make sure you do that. Sarah's saying she doesn't have accordion. You might need to update. Indeed you do. If it's not there, then you're going to need to update. It came out about 2 days ago, I think. Right, so that enables it, turns it on over there. You've also got tab stack options down here as well. So you have, I know it might be quite off-putting that you've got so many options, but once you've gone through them and set them the way you want them, you will thank past you for taking the time to do that. I have mine set as well not to close pinned tabs. So these tabs at the top, this little block of tabs at the top, are the ones that I'm working with all the time, and I don't want to close them. So there's no option to close those tabs because I've said don't allow me to close the pinned tabs. There's also stuff in here for muting audio except for the tab that you're on, which if you've got multiple things open, fine. I don't need that because the only videos that would automatically play would be YouTube, and I have nuked that with an extension. So that's where the settings are. You need to be in your tab features to enable that. Right, which when you go into here enables you to do it. So you've seen that I've navigated through them. But how did I create the stack? So what I'll do in here is I will go to the home page of this, and I will find some extra ones like the Devon Think one. So I'm opening the Devon Think one, and what's happening? Where are these opening? They're automatically opening inside the stack, which in this case I would probably want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how you get rid of the stack, and then we'll start working with the stack. So I'm going to unstack the tabs. Does it work with Zoom and other sharing sites?
Patricia wants to know if there's a downside to switching exclusively to Vivaldi, and does it work with Zoom and other sites?
It does work with Zoom. I've not found anything it doesn't work with. So there's been no downside to me to switching to Vivaldi. I still have all the other browsers installed. So I've got, I don't think we could, they're not grouped as browsers, but I've got Safari and I've got Chrome and I've got Chromium, I've got Chrome Canary, I've got Brave. Oh, what else have I got? Who else is a browser? Firefox, you name it, I've got it. But I just use Vivaldi as the default. So no, I haven't found a downside. Right, so I've unstacked. They were in a stack and I've unstacked them. Right, how would I go about stacking these then? Right, first thing you need to do is select the tabs. You can either do that using click the first one, hold the shift key and click the last one, and that selects everything in between. So the selections are exactly the same as you would get in Excel and things like that, aren't they, Mike? You could hold the command key and this time make a selection excluding some of them. But in order to create a stack, the best way is to do what I'm doing here, which is make a selection of tabs first. So I will grab the first 5 there. Then right click on it, and you've got lots of options here, and I use these all the time. But Kim has requested a build with me Vivaldi for how to configure Vivaldi, so I'll save all the details of that for that. But you get the option here to stack the 5 selected tabs. So I'm concentrating on these 3 options here. One option is to stack just the ones you've selected, so the 5 tabs that are selected. Your alternative is to stack them by host, and I've got 9 that are from 9 pages open from my blog. Or you could just say stack them by hosts, and that way you'll get multiple stacks based on which hosts they are actually on. But we'll take the first one for simplicity's sake. So I've created a stack of 5 pages that I can open, close, hover over, and click and go to a particular page, which is just, oh, it's amazing. Oh, it's amazing. Now, I've got other pages that I might want to add to that stack. One way to do that is to grab it and just pop it inside there. And that is just adding them as we go. So now I've got an extra page. Another way is to right click on it, and I have the option still to stack by host if I want to do that. Right, now, let's say I do want all of these pages in there. So I'll pop that into there. I will pop that one into there. So this way of doing it, I get to say what order they're in. But if I grab that one and hover over the top, you'll see the difference. This one allows me to place it with the dashed edges on it. But if I drop it on the top, it'll just put it into there. What are you doing? You have undone that. I will sort you out. Naughty, naughty. Right, let's grab these and pop these into there. Right, now they're all together in there. But these are from my blog, right? So we can see that I've got all of the tabs, and it's a beautiful way to navigate it. And I can even close things from here. So if I decide I don't particularly want one in there, I can even do that. Or I can drag one out, because you shouldn't be in there, should you? You should be up there. Only it's not dragging out, is it? Never mind. Right. Let me see if I can do it this way. Remove from tab stack. There we go. Only it's done the lot. So I'm going to put this back at the top. I'm going to grab these again. This time I'll do it where we will stack the 9, because there's one more feature which is very useful. These are the pages that are coming from that tab stack, and the tab stack has in it as the name, the unboxing at the top. That's the first one. If I go through it and I then pick the Devonthink one, the name of this changes. So far, so good. But we also have an option in here to right click on this. Why am I not seeing it? There it is. Rename tab stack, which takes you into that and enables you to rename it. So I could just put on there my blog. And now that is much easier for me to work with. And when I fold it up, I see the name that I've given it, but when I open it, I see all of the pages. So if you're working with multiple tabs, maybe from 3 different research places, you could fold them up and then actually rename the tab stack so it just had the name, your collective name for whatever those pages are, which is just amazing. Right, let's look at the questions. Are there any ad blockers? You use a lot of the stuff in Fiverr. You'll find the ad blockers for Vivaldi are even better. Even better. The one that I have up here is this one, which is it Ad Blocker Plus? Adblock, the best ad blocker. And you can see it's already got 8, but I don't know what it's considering 8 on there. I might have a link to Twitter, and maybe it's considering that. But I have very few extensions, but that is one of the ones that I do have. I just use Adblock, and it works great. Right, what else have we got in here? Just reading here that I had some trouble with Facebook Live and Zoom, and Facebook Rooms not working in all the browsers. That is probably to do with the security settings. Facebook wants permission for all sorts. I'll be honest, I don't use Facebook in Vivaldi. I only ever use Facebook in Firefox. And that's because it has a container feature which limits Facebook to knowing nothing about me. Nothing. And to be honest, I don't use Facebook that much either because I can't abide it. But that's just me. Right. Does having more tabs open slow the browser speed? I've not... No, it hasn't for me. Obviously, there'll be times when a particular tab has run away with itself and you've got some problems with it. In which case, at that point, it might. But... no, I haven't had that. You've also got, if you look back in here, in your tabs, you've got options in here to put tabs to sleep. I don't think that's how they call it, deactivate or something. There's something in there where if it's a background tab, after a certain amount of time, it will power down and not use any resources. Can't for the life of me remember where it is, but it's in there somewhere. I've not made changes to that, but you do have that in it, if that's an option. Renaming them is a game changer, and the thumbnails is a game changer. It's just fabulous. It really is. Right, let me tap on there and get in here. So we've created one, we've added tabs to it, we've taken tabs out of it, we have ungrouped it. We have renamed it, but Carol can't find a rename option. Right, to do the rename, you need to make sure it's folded up, though like mine is. Right click on it and it should be about in the middle, just in the middle. But first of all, you have to have a stack, and you also have to have it closed up. And once it's closed up, you'll get the rename option. Okay, Daniela has got a Facebook container. You have to allow it to get into the bank's page for transactions. I don't do online banking either. It's a long, hideous story associated with that, isn't there? But I keep Firefox just for things like that. Everything else, I was using Vivaldi as a Notion host, and I was using Firefox for everything else. But Vivaldi just got better and better, and it had so many features. I'm thinking, why are you using Firefox that doesn't have all these features? I mean, one of my favourite features is you've seen that I can toggle off the tabs on the left-hand side. I also have a shortcut to toggle off the panels on the right. So if we look at what we've got here, I have certain things in here, certain sites, and I use this sidebar. So this is the panel. By default, it's on the left, but obviously I want my tabs on the left, so I moved it to the right. And in here, I have certain sites. So I have Rome that will load into this side panel. So I'm doing research, I'm watching a video, and I've got Rome open in a side panel making notes. I've got Brooklyn's in the side panel. So tomorrow, the chat will be in there, and I'll be able to see it alongside the spreadsheet that I've got a list of music that I'm playing. When we were in Marooned, I had it open in the sidebar here, and the chat was just below the player. It's playing day 81. Oh, wow. I've got WhatsApp in there, I've got Google Keep in there, and I've got Focus at Will in there. And the beauty of the side panel is, if I were to press play on that, and there would be no point because you wouldn't hear it, but if I did, I could then do that and it would carry on playing. But that page isn't actually open. It's just in that panel, and the panel's hidden. It's fabulous. It really is. Also in there, obviously, you've got your bookmarks, you've got your downloads, you've got your history, you've got your notes, which I don't particularly use. You've got all your open windows. You've got a mail client, but it doesn't behave quite nicely with mine. You've got RSS feeds. You've got contacts. You've got calendars. So all of those things are available from in there as well. It's just amazing. It becomes like, it's like having an app that morphs into another app. So it's like having an app for Notion that when I need to use Rome, I use the same Chrome around it. I use the same interface, but now I'm looking at Rome, or now I'm looking at something else. So I love it, but the tabs are just to die for. That panel is the reason that I switched, because there is a very, very basic thing that you can do in Firefox. You can say in Firefox, open in a side panel, sidebar, I think they call it. But by comparison to what this can do, that is primitive. Because over here, it doesn't matter what sites I've got. I mean, that's got a warning on it because it's WhatsApp, and I opened it up in another window and WhatsApp gets very upset. But that will turn back to WhatsApp. But you can also add other pages. So it's called a web panel. And it's basically, it's a space in that sidebar for a panel where it will automatically load in a certain site as soon as you click on it. You can also allocate shortcut keys for all of those and get straight to them. So I added the ones that made most sense, and I use those. I was using the MacBites one every night and the other one every week. I don't particularly use Google Keep, and I do use Focus at Will. So Focus at Will, it just saves me having another browser open or another page open. That is a game changer. There's no other browser that's got anything like that. Nothing even remotely as capable as that. Right, the other feature that they've got, you need to know about a feature I've already talked about for this to make any sense. But let's say I want to, what have we got open here that I could, Devon think. Right, so there is a command. Who knows about Alfred? Alfred is a launcher. So that's Alfred just next to the Elaine Giles there. Let's say I want to run Word. I just type a word in, so Word in this case, or Microsoft Word. It would probably work if I did that, Microsoft Word. Right, it lets me run that app. As soon as I type Word, I just press enter and it would run Microsoft Word. It would also allow me to do things like 120 multiplied by 45, and it would give me the answer. And if I pressed enter, it'd copy it to clipboard as well. So that's Alfred. Alfred is an assistant, ostensibly a launcher for apps, but can do way, way more than that. So that's Alfred. That runs on the Mac. But whether you're on Mac or Windows, Vivaldi has their own version of Alfred, which is Command and E or F2. But F2 doesn't work too well on the Mac because you've got to hold the function key down and no. So Command and E. When you Command and E, you get what I would call Alfred in your browser. And now it's going to do browsery things. So if I was looking for the DevonThink thing, all I'd have to do is start typing it, and it would say, okay, you've got an open tab with DevonThink, you've got an extension for DevonThink, and you've got a history of pages that you've looked at for DevonThink. And obviously I just want to switch tab. It's just easier to do it that way. It's like having Alfred in your browser. So that is called Quick Command, and it can do so much, it's stunning. But you need to understand about Quick Command to understand about the next bit. Because while Quick Command is great for typing stuff in, so, you know, if I was looking for 139, straight away, you can see there is a calculator in here. So if I wanted to calculate 139 times 45, gives me the answer, I press enter and I can copy that. Obviously, it's only doing what Alfred can do, but if you don't have Alfred or you're working on Windows, then you can do the same as Alfred. If we go back to, I was looking for 139. So the first option is a calculator. The second one is to search your default search engine for 139, or you can look at the tabs there. So there is a tab that I have open for 139. And again, that will just quickly switch me to it. Simple as that. Right. Each of those is individual commands. But what if you could create power uses by linking commands together? Oh, what if there was a thing called a chain command? Daniela, it is Command and E for Elaine. So in here, I want to use commands. Right, well, the first thing we need to do is go back to the preferences. This is turning into a bit of a build with me, isn't it? These are just the new features. Can you imagine how long the build with me is going to take him? It was basically to take a raw Vivaldi install into what I've done. The build, I believe. Right, so in here we have quick commands. This is where you control what appears in your quick command when you use Command and E. So the calculator can be toggled on and off. If you don't want the calculator, you can just take the tick out of the box. Then you've got commands and you've got web searches, but you can choose whether you see results from what you type from your bookmarks, from your Vivaldi notes, from your browsing history, extensions, any page actions, and so forth. You can even, in here, move them up and down. So I worked on the principle I'd probably want the open tabs at the top, which is what I've got there. But if you use the calculator a lot, you can actually change the order that the results are given to you in by moving these up and down. And I took a decision, it's going to be the open tabs I'm going to be looking for, because I tend to have quite a few, naughty. I don't really use the notes, but it's not a problem having it there because it just won't find anything. There's nothing in them. And then you can choose whatever you want in there. Now, then underneath here, you've got quick command options. So do you want to keep the last type value? And Alfred, I do set that. So that was what I typed last, and it remembers that until I type something else, or for a set period of time. And that's what it's offering here. Do you want to keep what you typed last time? And I've said no to that, but you could say yes. Do you want to limit the number of visible search results? And that was on by default, I think. Do you want to open the links in a new window? No, I don't. Do you want to open the bookmarks if there's a nickname match? And I said no to that as well, because I use very few bookmarks. And do you want to open notes in the Notes Manager, which at the moment I don't have ticked because I don't use it. But those are the options that you've got in there. Right, then you've got the magic of the new stuff, which is command chains. So I had a play with it. I've got one down there that I had a play with. But the top 3 ship with it. And a command chain is something that you can run from one of a few options. But first of all, you need to create them. So what we have here is open links and tile them. So in here, that's the name of the chain at the top, open links and tile, which is what you're seeing over here. And you then have, how many have we got there? Good grief, we've got 9 different commands, one after the other. So what it's going to do is open a link in the current tab, you give it the name, open another link in a new tab, that's the name. A third one, that's the name. Then there's a delay. And the reason that there is a delay is, you've got to give Vivaldi time to catch up with you. That's that very short delay. And then it selects the previous tab, and then the previous tab, then another delay. And then it stacks the tabs and it tiles them vertically. That's the plan anyway. Shall we see if we can get it working? Right, that one is open links and tile. So what I'll do is I will get a new Vivaldi window and I'll use Command and E and I will put in, and there is a command chain that matches exactly what I've typed, which is this one here. So I'll click it and we'll see what goes on. Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? Now, if you've never seen Vivaldi before, you might be thinking, what are those 3 things? Vivaldi has the option when you're working. So let's show you in here. Let's say I want to look at my designer thing and my publisher thing and the mastering one. I could grab the 3 of those. They're not next to each other, you'll notice. And I can right click and I can say tile the 3 tabs. And now I can see 3 pages from my website in one window. So it's fantastic when you're comparing something. Or you've opened Rome in one of these windows and YouTube in another, and you're making notes on it. It's just a way that you can do that. You can even choose to have them the other way. They are vertically done at the moment. But down on your status bar, you can choose to do that horizontally if you want to. And it's put the whole lot. That didn't end well, did it? Good grief, not all of them, you idiot. Let me do that again. Right, well, I'm going to untile, because what we're doing is we're seeing them all. Let's just see 3 of them. But let's do those 3 horizontally. Just the 3, awesome. And again, you can scroll. In this case, it makes far more sense the other way, but sometimes you want to see them one above the other. And then as soon as you click somewhere else that isn't in the tab stack, or the tiling, it then takes the tiling away. Tiling is fantastic. Tiling is just to die for. So that is what was in that. So let's go back in and have a look at it. And that's exactly what it did. So if you have 3 pages like these that you want to constantly see next to each other, it just makes your workflow a heck of a sight easier. So what that actually did, what we've seen in there, it did that. I could actually add something to that potentially, which is I'd probably, in this window, want the tabs hidden because I can see all 3 to start with, so I don't need the tabs taking any space. So you can customize these things. I thought last time when they introduced the quick commands that was fabulous, but now I've seen the fact that they're creating chains with them, it's just mind blown, it's fantastic. So that's what you can do with it. That's what one of them does. The other one, we'll close the other windows and open one. So if you want to just close a window and then open up another one, so this is something that you do all the time, maybe at the end of the day for a timesheet or something, you could set that up. The other one was to toggle the full screen. One of them was, I think one of the examples was Netflix, which I don't have, so a total waste of time. But I did have a play around with it in here. I did a MacBites one, and I went into full screen mode, and then toggled on reader view, and reader view wasn't pretty. Oh, it wasn't. But it enabled me to do it. So if I show you what I did there. So we'll make a new chain that we'll call MacBites. Right, I don't need a delay for the first command. So I'm going to go into there and say, right, well, what do I want? I want to open a link. So either in a background tab, a new tab. Let's go for a new tab. I don't want it to be Vivaldi. I want it to be MacBites. So I can just do that because I have a Typinator shortcut. Right, then I can add another option. So let's say I want to do the same again. Open a link in a new tab, but this time I want it to be MacBites FM. So I've got two at that stage. Now, if you look what I had on this one, I opened one and then it went full screen. And then I had a delay and then I toggled on reader view. So let's say in this one, let's lose that. We'll add another one, but what we'll do is we will say full screen and then a delay. So all I'm going to do is type into there full, and it says full screen mode. That's fine. There are no parameters with full screen mode. With this one, you give it a command and then you say, open a tab. This is the URL I want you to go to. But this one, there's nothing else to do, but just go full screen. The next one is to add a delay. And then you need to say what kind of a delay. And I think it's not going to need that much, but I will put that so we can actually see it happen. What was the last one? Oh, yes, toggle reader view. So add another one and literally just go into there. And you'll see that toggle panel is an option, but I want to toggle reader view there. Let's just see if I can actually, with a toggle. I want to toggle the panel. Now, what do they call it? It could be URL. It could be address bar. Focus the address. No, I don't want to focus it. I want to hide it. I don't know if that can actually be done or how they're referring to it. But I will find out and we will do that in the build with me. So what we've got is open up MacBites in a new tab, take it full screen, and then wait, and then toggle reader view on. You're waiting for the page to load and then toggling reader view on. So that's the plan with something called MacBites. But let's make it MacBites chain so we actually know that that's what we're doing, and then close the preferences. Right, Command and E, bring it up. MacBites chain, it knows that there is a command chain called MacBites chain. And do that. So it's already taken it full screen, it's loaded it, and now it's gone into reader view. And like I said, it's not pretty. MacBites without CSS, not pretty, but it will do it. So if there's something like that that you want to do every day or at a certain point of the day, then you can do that. I will get out of full screen view, and that is a command chain. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just cool? Anything basically that you want to do, you could chain together those commands to do it. So with that, you need to know that there is Command and E, which is your Alfred built inside Vivaldi, and then you need to build your own chains, and you're only limited by your imagination and what you need Vivaldi to do for you. Right, when will the build with me be? Oh, you're downloading it and installing it. No, I wouldn't wait. I have a play around with it. What Kim wanted to know was like how I customized it to look the way that mine looks. So that would include quite a bit. I'm foreseeing multiple parts with that, Kim. It's quite big, isn't it? The only thing that was holding it up was I'd probably need a virtual machine, wouldn't I? I'll have a ponder and get back to you with when it will be. Oh, Patricia, mind blowing. You love this. Yes, Kim, that's why we need a build with me. A much better way for your passwords is to take them out of wherever they are. One, for security, and two, for the fact it's more secure if they're in a third party thing. And it's easier to transfer between browsers. So it doesn't matter what browser I use, because I use 1Password. My passwords are external to every browser, but available from every browser, which is important to me. How did I get the line under the pinned tabs? That is an option in here. So let's go into the preferences, and it's in tabs somewhere. It's somewhere in here. Show the pop-ups on the left, on red, dim. Show separator below pin tabs, which is on the left underneath tab options. And what that looks like is, if you take it away, you can't tell the difference as to which are pinned and which aren't. Or you can have it back on and then you can, and I much prefer that. Much prefer it. Okay, do we have any more questions before we get on? We've got a show to edit. First book at Amazon is a password logbook with suggestions for security. Oh, good grief. The first book you've purchased on Amazon. Oh, mine was in 1998, and it was a Microsoft book. It was the Manual of Technical Style from Microsoft. And I won't say that Amazon didn't have many customers in 1998, but they sent me a Christmas present and a card. Oh, they were fabulous back then, and now look at them. Never mind. Okay, keep putting your questions in for that. We will look at that again in the future. But right now, we've got important things to do. We'll probably need that at some point. So let's go back in there. So the two new features, the accordion tabs and the chain commands, both of which incredibly powerful. The accordion tabs will enable me to actually use the tab stacks now. The way they were didn't appeal to me at all. So you've got the compact ones, which I just think are too tiny. I think the ones where, this is like the three bears, isn't it? One's too hot, one's too cold, and one's just right. That takes up too much room as far as I'm concerned. But the third way is perfect. And then you've got your chain commands, which, there's the Netflix one. So basically, it opens it in a new tab, it goes full screen, there's a delay, and then it mutes all the other tabs. So you can watch something on Netflix, but I don't have Netflix. But if you do, then there you go, there's another idea for you. Awesome. Daniela says, I have a lot of bookmarks. Where does Vivaldi stack them? It puts the bookmarks are there. You need to go into, let's come out of that for a second, and your bookmarks are available up here. So I've got all my bookmarks organised, and I've got some saved ones that I saved today just to close them down. But your bookmarks are in there, but you also have another feature. So your bookmarks are, if you go into your bookmarks, these are your bookmarks. This is your bookmark manager. So it's Vivaldi / bookmarks, and go into there. The other way that you can manage that is, if we close that bit down, there is a bookmark manager. I'm trying to remember what the shortcut key. There you go. So that's all the ones you've seen that are up here, but they're also available in a panel down there, and you can organise them in there as well. So bookmark management, because there's bookmarks and there's sessions, I'd leave that until I was looking at the thing. But if you need to know where they are, that's where they are. If you've imported them, they'll be in there. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Right, so back in here where we were. Managing Marooned at MacBites headquarters. And we're actually going to wrap it up. Unbelievably, we are. Marooned at MacBites headquarters was a show, if you are unaware, that we decided we would do for 5 days on the 16th of March 2020. So it was going to be Monday to Friday that week. We had far too much fun. And we did 500 shows, and we finished on Wednesday. Just in case you're wondering, and I know, I've sat through every second of Marooned, you know.
I know.
No, you never took over, did you? You had lots of webinars, but no, I sat through every second. As I believe did Kim. And Tracy is so close to a full 500-day Marooned marathon. But she's slowing down to savour it. It's a good idea. But if you're wondering how many hours that was, a lot. Mike did the stats. 565 hours, 14 minutes and 32 seconds. Which, in minutes, is even more. So you were with us, if you're with us for every second, 33,915 minutes. An average show was an hour 7:50. Not bad, is it, that? Not bad. And, of course, rather than... If you think about Marooned as like, oh, well, you just sat there for an hour and then you press stop and that's it. Yeah, that was the plan. Because there was only going to be 5 shows, wasn't there? But once it went on and people couldn't make a particular show, they didn't want to miss it. So, 1, they wanted reminders, and 2, they wanted it to be a podcast. So, in addition to all of that, there were 500 emails in the last 500 days. And... there were 500 blog posts in the last 500 days, 200 of them being over a period of 3 days, I think, as I caught up. But everything is up to date, up to 499. There were 500 audio edits as well. And underpinning all of that, how we actually managed to do all of that, was with our stalwart apps of Notion, which is where it's managed, Hindenburg, where it's edited, Scrivener, where all of the mail magic happens, Feeder, that gets it to you, and Ulysses, where the blog posts happen. So, we have one more to do, because if we go to it up here, so MacBites FM, let's lose that. If we go down here, there's our calendar. You see, last one. 499. So there are 499 blog posts on there. 499 shows. We're one missing. So we need to wrap up. Go and play the lottery for 500. Oh, indeed. Right. So this was what I had to do every single day. Now, first off, I'm going to show you, which is why I have this page open. We did say this a while back. We have said there would not be a MacBites After Hours if it wasn't for Notion. Because when we started MacBites After Hours, it was going to be one show. There's a thread here, isn't there? 5 shows, 1 show. And yet, here we are, 139 shows later. And it's because that was around the time, so coming up to 3 years ago, that we moved to Notion. So what we have in here is, let's take that down a bit so you can see it. That's big. You need to go even smaller. There we go. That's what the page looks like that we manage the show from. So we actually have a MacBites 2.0, which is our dashboard. And that's everything MacBites. We then focus on a particular show. So we have a link there to the MacBites, Marooned at MacBites headquarters. And this was how we managed it. So there are 500 entries in here. Now, actually, we did check, didn't we? And there was 822? 822 shows altogether, but this is the MacBite shows table, which has all of them in, nearly 1,000 shows, but just filtered for Marooned at MacBites headquarters. And we have the show, we have the title, there's some classics in there. We've got the show art, which thankfully is the same for every show. But I'll just show you. It actually says join us live at 7 p.m, blah, 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 every night this week, because it was 5 days. We decided in the end, you know what, we're just going to leave that to say every night this week. But the artwork was the same, thankfully. Then there's the duration of each show. Then there's the release date, which obviously is just going backwards from the 28th. We have all the chat logs. And there's just this one that's waiting to be finished. And I'm going to finish it with you live. And then we have a very important button to push. We do. If I go over here, I can show you that that is what all the table looks like. So let me just squish this down so you can see it again. I'm just making the page a bit smaller because it's so wide. But what we've got there, that's every show. So there's 822 shows. But you'll see that there are After Hours shows, there are Marooned shows, there's MacBite shows. Somewhere down here there'll be a live for, it was June actually, wasn't it? Where's June? June. Somewhere here there's a live. There's a live. There we go. The spring-loaded event. Everything, every show we have ever done is in here. You'll notice at this point, you can tell which are Marooned and which are After Hours. But look, oh, a MacBites. And if we go further up, another MacBites. There's a MacBites. That's the donkey one. And there's the Harry Potter one. So they are all in there, 822 shows. Mike did the maths and told me that 40% of our output has been marooned at MacBites headquarters. So we definitely need that reunion at some point, don't we?
We do.
We do. Right. So that is only the admin. What I then need to do is actually produce this show, which is this last one out to the top. So let me get into there, up to that one. I need to produce this show. So I'm going to show you what I did every single day. Right, somewhere there's Finder. And there's our audio recordings. So this is from the 28th. We finished at 2041. And that is what I'm interested in. That is the full show. That was what was broadcast. And I have in here the last one, which is my Hindenburg file. So I will open up my Hindenburg file, and I'm not interested in any of that. And what I need to do is go in and make it show 500. Show 500. Okay. I've got the opening credits in there. This is going to be interesting because I'm not going to be able to hear it, am I? Oh, never mind. It'll work. It'll be fine. I've edited that many. I know what I'm doing. Right, so I'm going to just take this off the screen and I'm going to drag that file into here, onto my track. We don't separate with this one. Just to show you how many times I must have done this, I can tell in there. Why are you not zooming in? Oh, come on. There we go. I can tell looking at that. That's the apple bite. And that's me saying the beginning bit. It's 7 o'clock and time to be marooned. That's the beginning of the music. So I can get rid of that because the music's on the top track. That'll be the apple bite. And that there will be me saying hello and welcome. Or at least that is what I hope it is. Right. Should I edit it blind? It might not end well if I do that. That's fine. I can see that it's tight enough and we can carry on. So then what I do is go to the end, because at the end there's the music again and I take that out. Now you might be wondering why, and it's because, well, there's a gap anyway. Oh, that was me sobbing probably. It was definitely you guys sobbing. Right, so I can take that out. Not quite up to there. Come on. To there. And then all I need to do is put the credits on the end. And I know I was saying, stay safe, guys. So in there, need to make sure that's just about right. That'll be fine. So there's me editing audio without actually hearing it. Right, all I need to do at that point is save it. And Hindenburg is fantastic, because all I need to do is say it's a marooned episode and make me a full quality backup. And it's publishing right away. Look back on some of them. We need a retrospective, don't we, of Marooned at MacBites headquarters. Marooned at MacBites headquarters. Well, we did talk about tech for every now and then, didn't we? Every now and then we did. Right, okay. It's not doing bad there. It's actually publishing this up to the cloud. So I don't need to transfer it or put it anywhere else. It's going straight up to the cloud. And as soon as it's up there, I will show it to you. So it's not going to take long. Oh, the farewell song was just fabulous. That needs a post of its own, I'm telling you. Which version of Hindenburg am I using? You can see it's quite expensive. It's the most expensive one. But that's because I don't actually use the advanced features, to be honest, that often. The advanced features are basically, if you've got a perfect audio of yourself, you can clone it. And then if you've got a cold one day and you sound terrible, you put that in Hindenburg and you say, can you make it sound like that last one? And it does it. That's one of the best advanced features. But I don't use the advanced features that often because we've got hardware, you know, and I haven't had a cold. All the while I've been in lockdown. Funny that, isn't it? But yes, it is quite expensive. But if it's spoken word that you're editing, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth every penny. I have been through so many other apps, and Hindenburg is just fantastic. These bins that we've got over here that are called the clipboard, I call them bins. If I were to show you like a MacBites edit, you'd see just the amount of stuff that is in there. And it's a cut bit of audio that I can just drag on and put in the right order. So I'll show you at one of them when we've done this. Right, it's uploading that, or it says it is. And we're done. So that's how long it would take. That was a long show though, so that probably took about twice as long as usual. But it's done, and all I need to do there is close that. But what I'll do is I'll show you... Marooned. There's the last MacBites. So if I show you what that looks like, with all of the markers in it, multiple tracks, we've got Siri at the end, we've got Lady Siri at the end, we've got all of these markers in here. It's a joy to use because none of the other applications have got all of these features. So you can see over here I've got the general stuff that I use, like the byte and the credits, and then I've got stuff from Siri. And then I've got all these sound effects. So you'll notice if you've heard the show, there's a hammer hammering, isn't there, Mike? And I didn't warn Mike. Mike never hears the Siri sketch until he's checking the show just before it's published. And I thought, I wonder what he'll do when it's bang, 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 bang. But that is what it can look like. But obviously, a Marooned, we're not editing and we're not putting Siri in. So it's much faster. Right, so it's up there. Right, next thing to do, make it public so you can see it. So I have MacBites FM S3 folder loaded in here. This is a cloud that holds all our shows. So this one, for instance, I'd probably better doing it that way. This one...
Tracy says you'll make her blush.
It was fabulous. Hello, Zorba Press, just got here. Is the application called Hindenburg? It is. If you look up audio... editing Hindenburg, you'll find it. Right, I need to make it public. So it's on Amazon S3. I need to hit make public. And that should then make that public, which I can pull it in. We did do a session on editing audio in Hindenburg. I did a show. Can you find it? I can't give you any clues as to when that was, Mike. I'll just leave you with it.
Was it in After Hours?
It was in After Hours. We did it as a demo, yeah. Right, so it's now public. But you still can't get hold of it. So we need to move on to the next application, which is Feeder. Right, Feeder is a feed creation tool. And we have 5 feeds. We have MacBites and an MP3 feed for MacBites. We have 2 test feeds for MacBites. But I went without the aid of a safety net on Marooned, and that is the Marooned feed. So we're up to 499. So what I would do is duplicate the last one and then open it up.
When you have a task called Publish from Hindenburg, it doesn't really help you in the search, does it?
No.
No.
No. Good luck with that, Mike. Why don't you... oh, no, that won't work because they're private. No, I'll just leave you with it. You'll be fine. So this one was 499. And what I would do is change everything. And it was just easier doing this than starting from scratch. So it was the 28th and 29. 499 had a fantastic title though, didn't it? So I get rid of that. And then, of course, I need to go back to Vivaldi to find out what I called the show. Oh, what are you doing? That's the wrong Vivaldi. I've got 3 Vivaldis. Right, let's bring that back on. Thundering our way to 500. And that was because we had thunder and lightning during the last show. So get that out of the way and put that there. Like that. That needs to go in 2 more places. It needs to go down here as the last line. It needs to go as the last line on the episode summary. And then in there, it's pointing to 499 and I need it to point to 500. And because this timing isn't right, the episode duration, it's easier to actually pull it in from the audio file that's on the web. So I'm going to pull that in. And it changes that to 141 and 17 seconds. And that's it, we're done. 500, 500, 28, 500 and 500. Now, as long as the title matches at the bottom in the description and up there, we're good to go. This is where we had a calamity this week, isn't it? But let's see how this does, Mike. Are you ready to test? Right, at that point, it's done, but it's not published. It's telling you you've got 1 unpublished item in the feed. So I will publish it. Now, my trusty assistant will tell me if that's actually working and has come through, because what's been happening lately is it's had a mind of its own. We don't think it's us. It's not us.
Have you published it?
Yes, it's gone. It's up there. But sometimes it takes 5 minutes. So, Michael, have a look and give me the thumbs up if it's worked. No, it's not there yet. No. You might need to do magic beans at the back end.
Shall I do my magic beans?
You do your magic beans at the back end.
Hocus pocus.
Mike's going to wave some magic over the top of it and it'll work. Right, but that's it. That's me done in terms of publishing it. But that's not me done.
Daniela's got a question.
Okay, where am I looking?
She's asked twice, I think. She wants to record audiobooks for elderly people.
Yeah.
Which version should I use of the 3 offered?
There is a dedicated one for audiobooks, which I don't have. But I believe that one has features in it for audiobooks. Your best bet, they're very generous when it comes to the trial. So your best bet is to download the Pro version probably to try first, and then the audiobook version. If you get to the end of the 30 days and you're still not sure or you want to try it a bit more, they will probably contact you and offer you another 60-day trial. But if they don't, get in touch with them and ask them for a longer trial. But there is a dedicated audiobook one. In it, like you're saying, it's not cheap. They've only ever had 2 sales. One is a regular sale and it's every February. So what I did was I took the trial just in time for Black Friday to discover they didn't have a Black Friday sale. But I got right to the end of the trial and they offered me another 60 days. So I did the maths and I thought, this is awesome. This should get me just to when this sale's on. And it's International Radio Day in February. And they knock off about 40%. They have done one other sale. And that wasn't long ago, was it? About 3 months ago. They might do something for Black Friday, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Right, it's downloading.
Awesome.
Magic beans.
Right. Are there any other questions that I've missed?
No.
Okay. I would go for the audiobook one and at least trial it. But I, having never tried it, I can't actually tell you what those features are that are specific to audiobooks. I would imagine it was the export and management of it, because a book is so long. You have to have a way of managing chapters and things, so I would imagine it would be that.
Oh, Patricia says, why do you like Hindenburg? Unless you answered that before.
Hindenburg, I've tried lots of them. I have tried lots of them. I started off in GarageBand. I moved to Soundtrack Pro. I moved to Logic Pro. I moved to Adobe Audition. And I then moved to Hindenburg. And Hindenburg is intended for radio work. It actually started as an app for people who produce shows for the radio. It works great for podcasts if it's the spoken word, although I make music shows in it as well. I mean, obviously things like, there's nothing in it that you don't need for spoken word. So if we have a look at one of those files, let's have a look at the MacBites one. Right, if I was in any other application, where would I put this stuff over here that's in the bins? I'd have to have it on my file system. We had problems putting markers in. So these are all the markers we've got. Some apps didn't support markers, which are these yellow lines. So when the show starts, that's the welcome. And then there's the back bites. Then there's the chat bites. Towards the end, we've got credits that you look across in multiple ways. Come on. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Oh, let's do the window thing. These here. So you've got quite a lot of these. All of those had to be done in another application. The editor couldn't do it. The editor couldn't add chapters and stuff either. It didn't do those either. It didn't do these icon stuff. It did nothing of that. No artwork. GarageBand used to back in the day, but for the spoken word, the features it has are absolutely spot on, and there's nothing there that you don't need. I also, can I quickly show you that? I have it hooked up. I've got a cable lying across it. I have it hooked up to this thing. So let me just move that so you can see it. Not that one. Well, that'll do. Right, so the application is in the little application window. And if you look down there at that Stream Deck, all those buttons work Hindenburg. So I don't particularly fly around the keyboard. I fly around that Stream Deck. So it's a control surface and it just makes everything so fantastic. Much quicker to edit. So that's why I use Hindenburg. It's just perfect. Right, let's put that back. Okay, so that's done. But I'm not finished at that point. And I am going to come back into here in a second. Right, my next job is I need a blog post. If I don't have a blog post, you're not going to see the item, are you? So how do I handle a blog post? So in Ulysses, I go in here and I'm looking for Marooned at MacBites headquarters. And I have 1 day left. Look at that. Day 500. So what I need to put in there is the title. I need to put the title over here as well. This is a process that has been honed to within an inch of its life, doing 500 shows. All right, the next thing I need to do is then publish that. And I am publishing it to MacBites FM. Obviously, it's not going to look like that pew screen. That's just the preview, which isn't actually fantastic, but never mind. It'll do the job. So I'm going to put this up there, and I'm going to say on a date, and it was the 28th, and it would be 10 o'clock. That was the time they all went. And down here, I've got a couple of extra dashes that I don't need, but those are all the changes. That's all I need to do. And then publish it. Do you remember when I was in a rush and published it to Brooklands? That was a good night. So what that then looks like over here is that we then have a show up there. If I go back to the home page, you will see where we had 499. We now have 500. Awesome. So that bit's done. But I would still not be done, because what I need to do, I will go in there and mark that as published. I have this one at the top that's a template for the reunion show, but I don't need to worry about any of that, so I can close that down. I would, of course, have sent an email, and I would at this stage be creating the email for tomorrow. And that was done in Scrivener. So this is what that looks like. My mail management in Scrivener. So I archived them off, but I can go back as far as week 22, which was May. These will be all the mails that we sent in a week. So there's the Monday one for Marooned. There is the Tuesday one for Marooned, and there is the Wednesday one for Marooned. And I have them all in here. I have all my mails in here, to be honest. You can see a big difference between the number of mails sent a week like that and next week. They're all different colours because they're not actually done yet. When they're done, they're green. But I'll be halving the number of mails. So like Mike said, might be able to get different mails out there. Who knows? But the mail would go from there. I would export it. I would then give it to Mike and he would send it. So at that point, there's only one last thing to do. Oh, this is so important. It needed sharing. Right, when you have a podcast, you have a lot of metadata. So if we look at the MacBites feed, these are the items in the feed. But you also have configuration settings, which is where you publish it to, like down here. These are passwords and stuff to get it uploaded. And you have information about the entire feed. So for MacBites, you've got a description, you've got the dates, and you've got all of this here, and you've got all the Apple Podcast bit. This is what you see if you go into it. And then you've got who owns it and other information. And you have the same information for Marooned. But this is the first time ever we've reached this point, which is at the bottom, there is an option, and it says podcast complete. And it is. It is. Yes, you could finish the marathon now. Right, there you go. The podcast is now complete. So what I would need to do now is upload that. Oh, it's complete. We've done it. It's amazing. So that was what I had to do every day for 500 days. So that 500 odd hours worth, which was nearly 600, I reckon it was probably about 1,000 hours worth of work. But it's there and it's complete. And I've got the sneaking suspicion, well, you could always go back to episode 1 if you want to do the marathon. A MacBites marathon is where you listen to every show. So at one a day, there's nearly 18 months entertainment for you. And that one is complete. Okay. Oh, right. That's that sorted. Right, let's head into here.
Patricia says she thought you used Scrivener for blog posts. What's the rationale for using Ulysses?
Right, okay. I can, let me get to something so you're not looking at a blank. I can write blog posts in Scrivener, and Scrivener gives me a lot of ways to organise it with metadata. But when it comes to actually publishing it, Scrivener has no concept of publish me this to a blog. So I started doing it in Ulysses, and Ulysses has improved immensely to the point now where if there's a mistake, I can even republish it and update what's up there. So Ulysses' publishing capabilities are what sets it apart from Scrivener. But hold that thought about Scrivener. There's an announcement coming up about Scrivener. But before that, we're going to have a look at the freebies. It's back to school freebies. Aren't they cute? They're just too cute. I think they're adorable. There's a whole range of them. They are from Shutterstock. That's the link. That's the QR code. I did put the link in there. Tell me I put the link in, Mike. I did put the link in, didn't I?
Just about to go and find it.
Well, Mike will put the link in when he's found it.
Yes, I've found it.
Awesome, awesome. Right, okay then. So, are you ready?
No, I'm putting the link in.
He's not ready, not in the slightest. It's all right. I nearly put my camera on, not your desktop.
Oh.
Nobody wants to look at that. I've got to try and fix the laptop over there. Ready? Oh, he's got icons on his desktop. Oh no! Don't let Mike loose.
I've got loads of icons on my desktop.
You've always got icons on your desktop, haven't you?
I have.
Well, he's talking about pivot tables. It's part 2 of the pivot tables. And I know a lot of you have been interested in pivot tables. You find pivot tables incredibly exciting.
I'm ready.
Oh, Tracy says that when she finishes, she's going to go back to episode 1. Do you know, I think I'm going to have to listen to episode 1. I've got no idea what we talked about. No idea at all. Thank you for all the lovely comments. Right, so you want them to see your desktop, do you?
Yes.
With all those icons on it. Incoming icon warning. Incoming icon warning. Right, they can see you, Mike.
Right. Okay. Let's make a start. This is Pivot Tables 101 Part 2 or Pivot Tables 102. I don't mind what you call it. But it involves unicorns. And I don't think Dee's here tonight.
Dee's in.
No.
Oh, no.
No, she'll be devastated. Dee, you need to watch it on
I might have
catch-up.
traumatised her, to be perfectly honest with you, earlier.
Yes.
I thought, we're missing Marooned. What I need to do is put the front cover of today's Daily Star in there, and I don't think I've heard from people since.
Okay, back to unicorns. I thought what I'd do is do a little bit more on pivot tables. Last week I did the real basics of pivot tables. What is a pivot table? How do you create one? And this week I will take it a little bit further. So what I've done is I've created 3 pivot tables. I've tried to colour match as close as I can to the pink unicorn. I don't think it's 100% there, but it'll do. Pink is pink, apparently. So I have here a pivot table that I've already built. I showed you how to build them last week. And this one is showing the revenue broken down by the product. It is the Unicorn Clothing Company, my fictitious demo company that I use for my training demos. So this company sells a range of different clothing lines, and we've got here on the other sheet, the data sheet, this is the raw data, and this is details of the sales, which goes from the beginning of January all the way through to the middle of May. So you can see for each order, we've got the date of the order, we've got the product, we've got the country that we sold the item to, and we've got the revenue. And what I want to do is I want to take this data here and I want to summarize it in various different ways. So as you can see, the revenue broken down by product, the revenue broken down by market, and the revenue broken down by market and month. And we've got totals and all kinds of things there as well. Now, the first thing I will say is, and I didn't mention this last week, if you're building a pivot table, then ideally you should store your data, your raw data, as an Excel table. Now, whenever I talk about tables, most people say, but this data is in a table, and it might look like a table to you and to me, but to Excel, it's not being treated as a table. Most people, when you mention the word table, particularly in relation to spreadsheets, but it could be in relation to Word documents, it could be in relation to PowerPoints, most people think of a table as a block of data structured in rows and columns with headings across the top, which is exactly what we have here. But it's a table in my mind. It's not an official Excel table, as we often refer to it as. And why would you want an official Excel table? What's the teeth? Yes, the teeth. Why would you want an official Excel table? What's the benefits of it? Why can't you just leave your data stored in rows and columns and call it a table? Well, by making this data, converting this data into an official Excel table, or a table that's recognized by Excel as a table, the biggest benefit is that it resizes itself as you add more data. So at the moment, this data goes from A1 to E1001, so there's 1,000 rows of data. But what happens when I want to add more data down here? Or it might be that the orders are added to this spreadsheet in real time. So by having your data stored as an Excel table, it just means that your pivot tables will update as the new data is added, assuming you connect your pivot tables to the named table. So what I'm going to do, and this is kind of preparation work, what I'm going to do for the pivot table before I get into the pivot table is that I'm going to convert this data into an Excel table by clicking somewhere in the data. I don't need to highlight all the data. You can do if you want to, but even with just 1,000 rows, it's going to take you a few minutes to highlight it all. Imagine if you had 10,000 rows. So the first thing to do is pick a cell somewhere in that data and click on Insert and then Table. Make sure it's picked up the correct range, make sure it's got a tick in the box that says My Table has headers, and click OK. And what Excel does is it converts this from a plain list to an official Excel table. And we know it's an official Excel table because when we click somewhere in this data, the Table tab appears on the ribbon. It wasn't there a minute ago. The blue and white shading is automatically generated, and if you don't like that shading, you can go up to the Table tab on the ribbon and you can either choose a different color scheme or click on Clear. So either way, whatever it looks like, we've got a block of data that is now recognized as an official Excel table or an Excel table. It was somebody else coined the term official Excel table, and I quite like it just to differentiate it between just a standard block of data. Now, when I click into this table and go up to the table menu, the table is called Table 1. Nothing wrong with leaving it as Table 1, but I always give my tables more meaningful names. And I'm going to call this one Sales. I was going to call it Food, only because I was doing a webinar earlier where I used demo data, which was food. So there's no point calling this table Food. But question. Okay, I'll have a look at the question in a second. But yeah, the example I was doing before was all about food, and doing 2 pivot table webinars in about 3 hours, I'm going to easily get confused as to what data I was using. I once started talking about coffee when I should have been talking about ice cream. Yeah, that's how confused I am with with different data sets.
It could be worse. You could have been using that data from the 90s.
Oh, mort.txt, yeah.
It's all about deaths.
Yeah. As long as we're not eating unicorns. Okay. Anyway, let's just go back and have a look at these questions. Okay. So, right, Simon's in. Hello, Simon. Once you make it an official Excel table, can you insert a row or column? Yes, you can, Kim. You just click into the table and right-click and then just say insert, and you can insert columns to the left or rows above. So yeah, it will insert the data.
Do you know what I heard in my head then?
What?
When you said you can stick it on the left or the right or the left, and I heard stuck in the middle with you in my head.
Really?
It's all right. I'm in Brooklyn's mode. Carry on.
There's no answer to that,
No,
is
there
there?
isn't.
Okay, so Kim, hope that answers your question. Yes, I am into spreadsheets, Simon. Who knew exactly? Who knew? I'm also into pink unicorns.
Who knew that?
Yeah, I'm not really into pink unicorns, but don't tell Dee, it'll shatter her illusions.
Dee's recovering from the front of today's star. She could be a while.
So we've got the data. We've got the data sorted. If I go to my dashboard, let's say I wanted to create a new pivot table. Let's say I wanted to create a pivot table that showed the total revenue. No, I won't do the total revenue because I've already got 3 pivot tables that show the total revenue. I want to show the number of orders broken down by product. So I click in the data, anywhere will do, as long as it's within that table. So D7's as good a cell as any. Go to Insert Pivot Table. And because I've now got a named table, instead of saying base the pivot table on the range A1 to E1000, I'm going to base the pivot table on the table called sales. And that way, when more data is added at the bottom of the table, then the table will resize itself and the new rows will be recognized by the pivot table. So it's good practice to create your pivot tables based on a named table, and it just helps with updates. So I'm going to create a pivot table using the table name sales as the range. I'm going to stick the pivot table into the dashboard sheet, which is an existing sheet, and I'm going to stick it starting in A18 and click OK. And then I'm going to drag in, did I say product? I think I said product. I'm going to drag in product into rows, and I'm going to drag in revenue into values. And what that does is that gives me the total revenue per product, which is exactly the same as the pivot table above. But if I then right click on one of these numbers in column B, it's got to be within this pivot table as opposed to that pivot table, right click and select summarize values by, and then choose count. So what that will do is that will give me a count of the number of orders per item. What I'll then do is I'll just tidy up the pivot table. So I could type in there product, and then count of revenue. That's going to be number of orders. And I will format those just so that they appear the same format as the other headings and the other pivot tables. Okay, there we go. I don't want those in white. I'll have those in a darker colour. There we go. That'll do. And align that heading to the right. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a table and then I've built a pivot table from that table. But the other 3 pivot tables are not connected to that table. So if I click in this first pivot table and go to Analyze Change Data Source, This pivot table is actually connected to the range A to E, which isn't best practice, because when this data, as I said, gets added to, the pivot tables won't update. So using analyze change data source, I will change that to the name of the table, which I called, I've forgotten now, what did I call the table?
Age is a terrible thing.
It is, I called it sales. I called the table sales. So click into this pivot table and go to analyze change data source and type in sales. Go to this pivot table and rinse and repeat for this pivot table, sales, and rinse and repeat for this pivot table, sales. It is actually better. Where's my data gone?
Has it eaten it?
No, it's not. How very odd. Where's all my products? Let's just drag them in there. There we go. That's better. That'll need tidying up as well. Yeah, let's just tidy that up. There we go. And align that to the left. Yeah, so it's good practice to create a table, but it's actually better to create the table before you create your pivot tables. And that way you don't have to go back to the pivot tables and connect them up to the newly created and named table. You'll just be able to create your pivot tables based on the table right from the beginning. Okie dokie. Do you want me to carry on?
Yeah, whatever you're happy with.
Okay, I will leave it there. It'll give us scope for doing is it a 103 or a 201?
Oh, don't get confusing.
Right. Anyway, that is the pivot tables lesson for today.
Right. I was doing magic beans over here. A slide had disappeared and then I realised I can't blame them, it was me. Right, I'll do that first and I'll leave that there. Okay. I shall cut from you in a minute. Oh.
And Zorba says, I see this pivot table, I understand that I need it.
That's great. Okay, we're going to take a look at Nimbus Note. Oh, we are. This came hot on the heels last week, if you recall, of the changes, Note price increases at Evernote. So I just off the cuff said, there's always Nimbus Note. Nimbus Note was something I hadn't actually tried, but I was aware of it. So the state that I'm in with Evernote, I was using Evernote just as a file cabinet. That was it. It's got 15,000 notes in it. And I don't really want to take them out of there and dump them into Notion, because I don't believe stuff in Notion. Notion's fabulous for the right stuff. But just like it's amazingly good with some things, it's just as bad with other things. And I don't think me putting all my stuff in there is going to work. So I think Nimbus could be where it ends up. So I thought we would take a look at it. So, right, if you remember last time, we were at the point where I had literally just said there's Nimbus Note. My rationale for choosing that one was it's been around a while, it has fantastic reviews. My concern with moving to it from Evernote was that Evernote has been around forever. And doubtless with the price increases, you know, you'll be putting their kids through college. But it's getting to the stage where what they're adding is not what I need. All this integration with this, that and the other, and having this dashboard and stuff, that's what Notion's for. I don't need that in Evernote. What I need Evernote to do was what Evernote was really, really good at. And it isn't really, really good at it anymore. In fact, I think I've just actually done an update on Evernote, because I will be going into Evernote to show you part of this. So I don't know what the latest update is. There's an example. Right, I'm going to be taking some of this information. This is a course that I did called Introduction to Pixelmator. And these were the bits where the edit didn't work very well. And what I did, I used Evernote to say, right, that bit in red is the bit that I need to say, but that was the bit that went into it, and that was the bit that came out of it. One of my problems with this new version is I also had this audio file, and when I click it, it just says loading forever and ever and ever and ever. Never gets beyond that. So Evernote, to be honest, doesn't work. And I don't mind a bit of a disruption to my workflow for 5 minutes, maybe even a week, but this has been months and it doesn't work. But where I thought I might head is into here. Now, pricing wise, it's a lot cheaper than Evernote now. So it's free to try. You can try it for as long as you like, on as many devices as you like, but the limit is 30 notes. And it's 30 notes per workspace. So you could have 300 notes, if you've got 10 workspaces. But you probably want your notes together, not separated. Pricing wise, it is a subscription and it's via an in-app purchase of £4.49 a month or £40.99 a month. Now, by comparison to Evernote, which is now in the stratosphere of nearly £80 a year, you're looking at half the price. And if you've noticed, all of the reviews are like, bye-bye Evernote. So I will show you some of the switching things and then I'll show you what the whole thing is capable of. But that is what we're talking about. There is a web version. Last week I wasn't sure because I'd not tried it, but there is a web version. In fact, I'll be using that today probably. Right, so I downloaded it. I have it installed. I did a few things. What screen have you opened on? Oh, that one. Awesome. Right. I did import, as you can see, this is getting advanced in Pixelmator. This one, GAIP. But I did do some kind of import. So I've got something that I can show you the interface of and then delve a bit deeper into. So first things, the thing that Evernote doesn't have, it has nothing higher than your account, or nothing between your account and your notebooks. But this has workspaces. So you have a default workspace and you can invite people to it and you can manage it. But you can also create a completely new workspace. So when we looked at Craft, I had my personal workspace and then we had the Giles Thomas workspace. So it's very similar to that. So if you want to completely context switch between your notebooks and notes for work and your notes and notebooks for home, then you could create two different workspaces. It's just a level of working with your notes that Evernote doesn't have. I've always wished that Evernote could do stuff like that, but the nearest you would get to it is actually switching accounts. But this has this concept of a workspace. So I could have my own personal workspace, then I could have a MacBites one shared with Mike. But I'm going to leave it at just one workspace at the moment. Just be aware that there is that level. The other level that Nimbus Note has, that Evernote does not have, is a folder level. So in here, there was a couple of notes. I tested that last week and I imported this to see how that worked. But it's there inside my folder. And in here, I have a completely different set of notes because these are what I've imported. So folders is a thing, as is tags. Now the folders mean that you can have nested stuff. So for instance, if I created myself a new folder, right, how I had to do it when I was using Evernote as my sole notes app, which was around 2013-14 for creating courses, I had different courses and I had to manage them with a tag. Otherwise, I'd have to create a stack and then a notebook within it. That's great. But if a course was split into 4 different parts, then there was no more levels. Whereas in here, I can then add a subfolder underneath it. So if I wanted my Getting Advanced in Pixelmator as a separate folder, I can do that. I could even in here, depending on how I want to organise myself, right, Pixelmator courses. And I could put that one inside there because that was a Pixelmator course. And at the same level as that, I can create another subfolder, which was Introduction to Pixelmator. And I'm naming them like that because that's how I've named them in Evernote, so I'll know where to put the notes. But this is a proper folder structure. Obviously, you know what that means for me. It's going to be parad to within an inch of its life. If you've not heard of Para, it is projects, areas, resources and archive. It's 4 top-level folders plus an inbox. And you organise everything that you've got. into these 4 folders, and it's fabulous. In fact, if I go back to a drive, now all my drives are parrot. I go back to a drive and it was pre-parrot, and I look at it and think, what were you thinking? It's just a mess. No matter how much you try and organise it, without that top level 4 folder structure, you have to look at the title of a folder and then process what's in it. In your brain, what was in that? Oh, that was a backup, it's an archive. But it isn't in a top level archive folder. So these folders that you can organise in here is a much better bet than the limited way that you've got to organise in Evernote. Now, what I did to start off with was I imported some notes from Evernote. I don't foresee me particularly sitting down and writing notes in Nimbus, because that's not how I use Evernote. I clip to it, I capture to it. So it's really a file cabinet as far as I'm concerned. So in terms of creating new notes, my content would be in Roam or it would be in Notion. So I'm looking at this with, can this be my new filing cabinet for all the stuff that's in Evernote that now doesn't work? The audio files don't work. They don't play. This is not good. This is not a good experience. They say they fixed the audio and that you can record audio. Well, that's grand, but it won't play. So my question that I was asking of Nimbus Notes is, can it import stuff? And if it does, how good is it? So I did an import test, which is what this folder is, of 41 notes. These were the notes. So if you look at that, redo 04, I had redo 24 in the other one. So let's try and find 24. Was there a 24? Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Hang on, not imported that one yet. So let me find redo 04. That's grand. So that's what it looks like when I've imported it from Evernote into Nimbus Note. And that's not bad. Fidelity-wise, that's not bad. In fact, I actually prefer the font. But what we've got there, the titles come through, the links have come through, but these are Evernote links, and they remain Evernote links. But I much prefer the font. I think it's easier to read. I think it's a little bit bigger. It's retained the colour, and it's retained the fact that there is an audio file there. So that's what it looks like in Evernote, and that's what that looks like in Nimbus, and that's pretty impressive. Right, what I will say about this is, because obviously I can't play these in the new Evernote. So I thought, well, can I play them in here? Because I don't see a play button. And the answer to that was no. If I click on it, I download it. So that's still not ideal, but given the fact I can't play it in Evernote anyway anymore, it's not a problem. You then have the option to add stuff, but I'll look at this when we create a note. But in essence, I can get to this, but it's still not as easy as it was. There isn't a button to just play it. But everything that I've created came through. Even stuff with images in, all came through. All of the highlighting came through in all the different highlight colours. So I've got my yellow highlight, my green highlight. I wrote some of that in Markdown. So I do have like a level 2 heading in there. But it all came through. So that was actually quite impressive. Now, as soon as I did that, if I go into here, and is it in the preferences? It is. No, it's not. Hang on. There it is. Right. If I look at that, it says Pro. And it gives me however much data. Is it 20 gig of data? 20 something of data. But you'll see it says traffic usage resets in 25 days. That is when I downloaded it and created my account. But you can also see premium access valid until the 29th of August. What on earth is that about? And underneath it says workspace notes limit, unlimited, and organisational block limit, unlimited. That's because the Pro account was automatically activated for me when I imported my Evernote notes. Now, I didn't import them all, it was just a test. So I only imported 41 as a test. But in so doing, it automatically gave me Pro, because they want people to shift from Evernote. So to tempt you over, I mean, you can't do much of a test with 30 notes. Not if you're coming from Evernote. So they will let you import as many as you want. It's unlimited during that first month. So that's definitely worth doing. But you would need to know how to do it. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll look at actually what Nimbus can do. So first thing you need to do, there are two versions of Evernote. There is Evernote version 10, a shadow of its former self, and there's the Evernote Legacy version, which is the last workable version of Evernote. Now, it doesn't matter which one of those you use for export if you only want to export one individual notebook, because the new version of Evernote can't handle all the data from the old one. So it can only export a notebook at a time, which, depending on how many notebooks you've got, is going to be a big waste of time. So if you want to take out the entire lot, you may be better getting Evernote Legacy and using that. And it is available for Mac and Windows. And what it will enable you to do is to export all your notebooks all in one go. I'm going to go with this version 10 thing because it'll do for what we want. And then what I did with this, it's relatively straightforward. All I had to do on this was right click on it and say export notebook. So you then get this window showing up. This is very different to the original Legacy version. The Legacy version just worked. It was fabulous. And this new one's appalling. It's fine if you want to do it notebook by notebook, but I must have easy 80 notebooks in a few stacks. So it doesn't appeal to do it one by one. Having said that, for a test, it's probably better to go for just a notebook and then do your big import later, depending on, what you find out about it. But you have three different options when it comes to export. There's Enex, which is an Evernote export file. You have a single page and you have multiple pages. Now, why might you want to export it as to multiple HTML pages? Well, that's the kind of thing that you could take in. I mean, you can take in an Enex into Notion. Enex, although it is a proprietary format to Evernote, has become a standard for transferring notes. But you may want HTML for it to be, if you're taking it out of Evernote because you're just really peeved with Evernote, then you could put all those HTML pages in a folder and you can navigate between them. You would have an Evernote-free set of Evernote notes, if you're with me. But I don't know why you would take out one single page if you're doing an export 41 notes. That doesn't make much sense to me. But down the bottom, so I'm going to go for Enex. Down the bottom, you get to say what attributes you take with you. And you've got the full range. Now, the note title can't really be toggled off because that's how it's going to refer to a note. But you can choose to keep the created date, the updated date, the author and the note reminders. So it supports note reminders. Tags is obviously a good thing to keep because if there are tags in the Enex, they will be imported into Nimbus. Then you've got any tasks that are there, which is quite interesting in itself. It depends how they're defining tasks because we have this new concept of Evernote tasks for which you need a higher paid account than the one I've got. Then we've got the location, which if it's saved with the note, might be important if you want to search by location. And then you've got the source URL, which as far as I'm concerned is critical. I wouldn't take any of those attributes away, but your mileage may vary. Then all you need to do is to hit export. And it will prompt you eventually. Go on, you know you want to. Or not. Oh, come on, Evernote, you can do it. You know you can. Or maybe you can't. Oh, he's not in a good mood today. This is one of those situations where I'm glad to say, here's one I blue petered early, because it's not exporting. Now, I will say, the difference between now and when I did my test, I've updated Evernote. Clearly not the wisest idea, unless you can only export a notebook once. Oh, come on. Nope, it's not having that one. Okay, what else have we got? I've got a 4 export here. Did I have 3 test notes in it? I did. All right, let's try that one, seeing as though there's only 3 notes in it and it might be in a better frame of mind. Alternatively, it's not having it at all. So there we go. Right, so if you want to export from Evernote, you're probably better with the legacy version because this is broken. But I did it yesterday and all I had to do was hit export and I ended up with this Enex. So let's go and get the one that I did earlier because now it's not working at all. Thanks for that, Evernote. Grand, 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 grand. So where's my data? Right. Obviously, I've already imported one. So my data should be in the data folder. Here we go. So what I've got there, that's what you can see. I did this at 4 o'clock this morning because that's when I prep. So the one that was the advanced one, I think was the one I imported, wasn't it? Let's have a look in Nimbus. Which one did I do? It was that one. It was the Getting Advanced one that I did. Yeah, I gotta love it when they break stuff. But this one, I haven't yet imported. That's because this one was a lot more. If you look at the size, this is because there's audio files in it. So that's why mine are so big. If they were just notes, they'd be really tiny. And maybe that's what's the matter with it. Maybe there's now a limit on what you can export. Nothing would surprise me. But this is what you end up with. And if we just go to this view, you can actually see that the icon is showing you that there's an Evernote elephant on it. So it is an Evernote proprietary file. But the good news is, I think OneNote can read Emacs files and Nimbus can read Emacs files. Notion can, Craft can. So it's become a way to get your notes out of Evernote rather than taking them in. But you can use it for an import if you need to. So to do this, I'll try doing it with the one that I didn't do it with. But let's go down and do that. So you do that through the web interface. So let me get to Nimbus. Right. I am logged in, so I'm up here and I'm logged in. Right. So here are exactly the same notes that I've got on the desktop. This is the web client. Right, so I want to import. So I've done my import test, but this one is going to be the bigger one of the two, isn't it? Which is the introduction one. So in my Pixelmator courses, I actually have down there this introduction to Pixelmator. Now, to import it is a bit weird. I've read the instructions twice, and there are options in the instructions that are not available in here. So I think they've made some changes, but not actually updated the documentation. It would make sense to me that I could import into that folder. But the official way of doing it is you need to go to the settings in the Nimbus web version. So there were settings in here. So these are the settings. So these are the settings that we've already seen. In here, the fifth option down is import from Evernote. And it gives you some information here. So this is basically people saying it's fantastic. But up here, it's saying this is what you do. Now, they've given you an article where it says, please read this article. This is the how to export from Evernote, which whether that's going to work or not, get the legacy version. Well, you can. Because the way it's going, you're never going to get these notes out of here. Right, and it says once you've exported in Emacs format, all you need to do is to click the button and choose the folder. So I'm going to click choose file. And that's going to go to the desktop, but I need it to go into the data for this, which is that one there. And this actually gives you a preview. This is actually default folder, but it gives you a preview of what that looks like. So in essence, what you've got is a text file, which is pointing to a folder inside the Emacs because you will have images that it will bring in, audio files it will bring in, it's capable of bringing in video, and all of that is wrapped up inside this Emacs file. But the preview of an Emacs file shows you the actual definition of it. Right, I'm going to hit open, and it is going to, first of all, prompt me where do you want it. So I want it in the Pixelmator courses, and this one is introduction. So I want it in there, and OK. Now it says it's started, and the first thing it does is upload it. So you see the upload in the top corner here. Right, once it's uploaded, it does then need to unpack it and do server-side things in terms of bringing it in. If you only have text-based notes and a few images, it will be a lot faster than mine will be. Yesterday's was less than half the size of the one that I've just imported, and it took about 10 minutes, which I didn't think was bad. I would need to know how long it's going to take as to make a decision whether I'm going to do 15,000 notes in one go or leave it to it doing notebooks. But you can see what's happening in the background. First one comes in, and then the next ones will come in and so forth. And it's processing it and loading it. Now, the instructions I saw said you could do this client-side, which means on your computer. But the only way that I can find that it works is to do it via the website, which isn't a problem. It's just a matter of doing it and getting on with it. Night, Sarah. So there it is coming in. That was a tutorial that I had. There's my 24, my redo. So that's coming in. It's actually unpacking these audios as it goes. And there's 23 and so forth. So this is actually happening on their computer rather than yours. So yours won't grind to a halt while it's doing it because it's doing it in the cloud. And you get a progress at the top to show you how long it's going to take. That one probably won't even take 10 minutes. It depends on, well, I don't know if there's video in it. I know there's audio, but I don't know if I put video in it. So we'll find out when it finishes. But that is how you actually import it. So while it's strutting its stuff, we will go back and we will have a look at what we've got in here. And I will show you the features that this has that you will then be able to use on your notes when you've got them imported. So let's use the test ones down here. So a new note. There is the new note button at the top. That gives you a new note. Now, it's a hybrid between Evernote, because it does look very like Evernote. It's a hybrid between Evernote and Notion, because unlike Evernote, it supports blocks. So obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is give your note a new title. So we could plan, couldn't we? We could plan the Vivaldi Build With Me. Right, so you give it a title. You also have some options here to select a colour. So a note could have a colour. And you've even got the little smiley face if you want to give it some kind of icon as well. So for this one, we could have that to mean a browser. What do we have the word? That's the one I'm looking for, that one there. So you can give it an icon as well. Right, put that at the end or the beginning. Let's stick it at the beginning there. Awesome. Right, in terms of metadata, you can add tags. So these are the ones it's found from the import. I haven't created any of these, it created it itself. These were the ones that were imported, and they are the same ones that you see over here. And you can add ones there. So I would probably want a Vivaldi tag. So I'll make a Vivaldi tag, and I could even do a build with me. And then any notes that are, build with me would come back. So just your standard tagging structure. I must admit, I probably go more for folders than tags. But in Evernote, I've been using it for so long, it would need tidying up before I bring it out, or it will bring all kinds of garbage with it. But you have the ability to use tags. You also here have the ability to add attachments at the top level. So rather than embed stuff in the document, you could add it at the top level, actually add it to the note. You've then got a to-do list, and you've got the ability to set a reminder. You can get a public link which would share that entire thing out. You can open in full screen so you can focus on it, and you've got extra options in here. So do you want read-only mode? Do you want focus mode? You're going to go full width. So just options in terms of how you actually interact with this. Then in the body of it, this is where you obviously start putting your content. But if you think about Evernote, Evernote's very much text, and then I can drag and drop something in, but this is block-based. So what block-based means is if you just want to add some text, you can just start typing, and that is actually a paragraph block. So all of these different types of blocks, and there's loads of them. There's paragraphs, tasks, numbered lists, bulleted lists, tables. It can handle images, files. It's got headings. It's got section breaks. You can put a link in. You can put a block of code in. If you've got multiple people collaborating with you, you can @mention them. You can put quotes in, hints in, outlines in. You can embed files. You can put Google Drive files in, you can put bookmarks in, you can even make a button. And there is a way with the clipper that you can add screenshots and screencasts as well. It will actually record for you. So there are lots of things that you can add. You can, if you want to do just put a task in, just do it by clicking on it. So task 1 is probably going to be what? Research. Right, and then as you move down, you've got all the other tasks. More research, probably, knowing me. And as you do that, you get another one. But if that's not what you want, you can just backspace that out, and it takes you back to the level where you can choose. And obviously in here, you've got a task like you've just seen. You've got a numbered list, a bulleted list. You have a table. You have images and attachments. But in addition to all of that, you've got all of these extra ones as well. And each and every one of them has a shortcut key, which I absolutely love. I really appreciate the fact that they've done that. Now, a faster way to work entirely is, let's say that I want a numbered list. It uses the slash key just like everything else. And as soon as I start typing and then press enter, that's what I get. So in terms of making notes, it reminds me of Notion. Apart from the fact that the blocks in Notion seem more clunky than this. This is quite smooth. So let's put item 1 and item 2 and item 3. Oh, this Vivaldi build rhythm is going to be amazing, isn't it? And then again, you can go back, and at that point, I'd probably put a large heading in. So I then tend to build a running order, and in that, and so forth. You literally just build it up like that. But it is different in concept from Evernote because of this block-based approach, which is why in the non-pro version, in the demo version, there is a limit in terms of pages and blocks. Because if you remember way back, that's what Notion used to do. There used to be 1,000 block limit. So everything in here is treated as a block, which in terms of moving forward can be really interesting in terms of what could they do with backlinks and things like that. Because it being block-based is the beginning to that. If it's not block-based, if it's just like Evernote, where everything's just a note, you would struggle to do intricate backlinks because you wouldn't be able to drill down to the level of a particular paragraph or a particular bulleted list, numbered list, or whatever. So you have all of these options. So let's show you putting in a code block. So if I've got some CSS or something, let's put in mail button. This is how you write CSS. So I would put in there, I'd probably indent that actually, and then we'd have something like background red, semicolon, next line, and then you would have colour. Don't put the U in it, it doesn't like it. And we'd have that white, and then you would wrap up that. So there's some CSS for you. I have wanted Evernote to do that since forever, because many moons ago you would have to buy a separate application for your code snippets. So if you can imagine all the work that I do, I've got millions of code snippets, and it's finding them. So I actually had to buy a separate app, and they disappeared on a regular basis because there's no money in an app like that. You know, somebody builds it and it's fantastic, and then they realise they've got to maintain it, and people are asking for extra features, and you know it's being pushed out at like $3.99. They can't make a living with it. And I said to Mike, I would do with Evernote, but I can't put a code block in it. But now I can put in here. I can put a code block, a proper code block. Because up here, you can even choose a different language. So at the moment, it thinks that's plain text. But if I was to say to it, no, it's actually CSS, then I get it colour-coded as well, on top of everything else, which is just fabulous. It's fabulous. And there's all those languages supported as well. It's very similar to Notion. Notion does exactly the same thing. You can even in here, that's not how you spell Dracula, but you can even change the look of it. So it's got different colour coding on it, and it's on a dark background or a blue background, whatever you want. You can theme it actually in there. Now that's probably how I would have it, because that looks like my code editor, which is just fabulous. Now why Evernote have never added that, I really don't know. That possibly a bit niche for most people, that they don't want code blocks in there, but it is actually quite handy. What they do need in there to turn this into a good way of working, it's actually there, but it's not on the front. There's scope there at the top with this gap to actually put a button on, so I can copy that. At the moment, I have to go into there and copy it. But that is easier, believe you me, than going in here and making a selection and then copying it, which is the way it should work. For a code database, that's just amazing. So everything that they've done in here, I think, is fantastic. In terms of it's better than Evernote, but it can pretend to be Evernote if all you want to do is just write into it. But you do have all of these extra options and all of these extra features. Shall we see how that import's getting on? All right, let's bring that on. There you go, totally finished. So everything is in there now. So let's have a look at what we've got in here. Oh, I didn't do number 7. Were there no mistakes? There we go. So ITP redo 15. So what I'm going to do in here is, as I go into there, There they all are. So it was number 15. 15. Why is it never where I can find it? Have I skipped past it? There's 22. If it's done, then 15 should be here, shouldn't it? There it is. There we go. So yeah, there was no colour in that, but it just has complete fidelity. Seriously, that is good. As an import, that is good. I have tried doing an Enox import into Notion way back at the beginning, and I don't want to use Notion as a replacement for Evernote. And when I looked at it, it wasn't bad, but there was a lot of triage needed. There isn't a concept of a notebook in Notion. There isn't a concept of a stack in Notion. So yes, it can take the stuff in, but then what? How do I replicate what I had in Evernote? Because that's where I'm going to go to find it. That's where I'm going to look. I'm going to think, oh yes, it was in the ITP stack. And I'm going to go into Notion and think, there isn't one. And then have to fiddle around. Whereas in here, I think I probably could just export stuff and take it across. Have you also noticed that something else happened? So if I go back into my basics in here and I'm looking at this, I had some tags that came with it. I had some tags that I created. So Vivaldi was one that I created. Build With Me I created. I did not create. And that one I don't think. Oh, I think I did. I did. That's my script. There you go. So there's my script ones. Oh, pick picture. Yep, that one is fine as well. And that's got another image in it, and that's fine. And these are identical, even down to the fact that I decided I didn't have time for that one. Do you remember that guy that was in charge of approving my videos?
Yes.
And it was, there should be no longer than 15 minutes at the start of this thing. I thought, that's fine. Then I got there should be no longer than 12. And then I got there should be no longer than 10. And I thought, what is this? Bidder note. So that one never got done, which is why it's in grey. It was like, oh dear, I've run out of time. Never mind. Oh, happy days. Happy days not. And there's another one with lots of graphics in. So it's worked fantastically. I think I could use that instead of Evernote. And I would say that's the first one I've ever thought I could do that. And seeing as though I only want this as an archive. So what actually happens in here is if I decided that I was going to redo this course. So now we've got Pixelmator Pro. I'm going to redo this. Then I would go back in here and I would start moving this out. So if it was like, there's my first notes. Right. That's what I said. I would take that and I would put it somewhere else, probably Notion, maybe Scrivener, and I would start editing it. So at that point, I would put in here deprecated. I would have a deprecated tag and I would tag it deprecated. And I would know as soon as I saw that deprecated tag, don't edit this, it's somewhere else. And the somewhere else it would be where I would have taken it to redo the course. So I think I probably will be using this instead of Evernote the way Evernote are going. I mean, if Evernote put everything right tomorrow, it still doesn't help the fact that it's twice the price. But that's where we're at with it. So do we have any questions with using Nimbus Notes instead? I think that's got definite legs. One, the import is great. Two, now I'm used to blocks. I mean, even Roam, which is text-based, has that slash menu and you can put other things in it like Kanban boards. So when I'm processing videos and I've got my Roam page open all day, every day, I'll actually just throw a quick Kanban board together. And as things process from one status to the next, I've got it in Roam just looking at it. So that slash menu is very important, and Evernote are so far behind now. I know that what they've done is they've taken a step back and they've basically cut themselves off for 2 years, rebuilding something to put in a really strong foundation to basically build that you're looking at now. Nimbus Notes have already got it. So I think I probably will. I'll do a few more tests of transferring notes into it first, and I will do that during the free month that I've been given. Is it easy to get things back out? What format would you like to get things back out in? You can certainly share it. In terms of exporting it, I would have thought you could export it, but you never know, do you? So export all notes. And what do we have here? Not as good, to be honest. I could export all of those as PDF. The only way that if I wanted to go back into Evernote would be HTML and then try and import the HTML. But let's see what we get with the PDF. Let's stick that in there. And then we'll do another export of HTML. That's not bad, is it, considering how many notes is in there? Right, got any other questions? Put them in. Put them in. It doesn't look like it generates an Emacs. Now, there is a possibility. Not many apps do. It could be that Evernote allow the reading aspect of that to be public, but not the writing aspect. I honestly don't know. It seems erratic which ones have it and which ones don't. But it is an Evernote proprietary format. So it looks like it puts out in PDF. But is it one PDF? Is it multiple PDFs? I have no idea. Let's go and have a look. Right, there's our export. And there's our all notes. It's organised by folder. And it looks like it's one PDF per note. So let's have a look what we've got in there. And what have we got? Oh, not the best. There we go. That would be interesting to see what it does with that audio file. Because PDF files can actually have audio files embedded in them. But PDF Expert is going to be totally unaware of that, isn't it? Totally unaware of it. Let me see if Acrobat is as unaware of it. So I do have Acrobat installed. You can embed video and all of the kinds of stuff, but that is not embedded. Never mind all of that. Nope, that is not embedded. Oh, God almighty. This is Adobe for you, isn't it? No! Go away. And stop giving me poppy-uppy stuff. It drives me mad. Oh, and they're featuring Adobe Sign because that's halfpenny extra. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have the audio in it. But there again, as an export, the only way you're going to get that is with an Emacs, and it doesn't look like it does an Emacs. But what does it do with HTML? HTML should technically give you a local website, which would have the audio files. So let's do an export as HTML and see what it makes of that. And let's see how long that takes. Oh, it's actually faster. An Emacs is a format that Evernote created, and they created it so they can import and export files. But mostly these days it's used for exporting from Evernote to go somewhere else.
Yeah, because people can't wait to get out of it.
People can't get out fast enough. Right, let's open all of these up. Oh, these are a zip file now. Oh, that's not too good, is it? I'm not quite sure why we'd be doing that. Let's take one of these. What have we got inside these? That's ridiculous. I wouldn't have expected each one to be zipped because I can't use it if it's zipped. I'd need to unzip it. And if I unzip it, the assets would include the M4A. So that's my note. And that does let me play the files. And these will be links. But having each one in a zip file is utterly ridiculous. I would want to create an export where I'm quite happy for it to be HTML, but I'd need to be able to click from one page to another and to have to unzip all of that first. Not grand. That's what keeps people with Evernote. People have actually said to me, you know, I'll always leave my like backups. What's in Evernote will stay in Evernote because I can always export it into an Emacs, which is read by a lot of other files. They clearly need to do a little bit of work on that, I would say, because I don't think the zipped export is useful at all. PDF one's not bad, but to get those notes back into Evernote from that would be a living nightmare. So excellent question, Paul. Excellent question. You can get the stuff out, but it just depends on what format. To be honest with you, that's why I'm using Roam, because Roam's text-based. So I can just export it from Roam. I've actually done an export of my entire Roam graph and taken it into Obsidian just because I can, just to have a look at it and know that if Roam went away tomorrow, would I be able to use that data in Obsidian? And the answer was yes, as is. Obsidian doesn't have a file format of its own. It's based on Markdown. So every note that you create in Obsidian is a text file. So if you wanted to move from Obsidian to Roam, you could. So to be honest, Markdown notes is where it's at, not all this proprietary jiggery-pokery jumping from one to another and back again. But if people want that kind of slash and nice formatting in it, then they're going to stay with Evernote or move to something like Nimbus, whereas I'm quite happy with it just being text. The most important thing to me is that I can find the notes when I need them. What was the notes I was looking for the other day?
Can't remember.
It was from November. Oh, I know what it was. It was when I moved from Keynote to PowerPoint. And I sat here and Mike said, you must have the notes somewhere. I thought, oh, I have no idea where. And I sat and I thought, oh, please tell me I put them in Rome. Because if they were in Rome, Rome works where I know the day. And that's it. That's all I want. I know the day. So I went into Rome first thinking, fingers crossed. And I got there and I got 2 days worth of notes about everything that I'd done. It was like, thank you. Because if it wasn't in there, you could say, well, it would be in Notion. Yes, but where in Notion? Because there's multiple places you can put it in Notion. Whereas Roman Obsidian don't have that. So Roman Obsidian and, there's also Athens. There's one called, is it Loxy? There's about 4 or 5 that work on the same principle. They are smart notes apps. Smart Notes. And I would say Evernote is not a Smart Notes app. I wouldn't say Nimbus was a Smart Notes app at the moment. Obviously, for that to make any sense, I would need to explain what Smart Notes are, which was on our list at some point to cover. So maybe that would be a good thing to look at, because I've already had, I think it's like 3 or 4 requests to look at Obsidian. I wouldn't... it depends what type of notes you want to keep as to which app is best for you. But it's not helped when apps start changing, because the things that Evernote have added, I'm not interested. I couldn't be less interested in what they're actually adding. It sounds great, but when you actually think about what you do with Evernote, the stuff they're thinking of adding is not particularly the kind of stuff I would find useful. It sounds great that it links in with your calendar, but when you see in what way it links in with your calendar, it's worse than useless to me. So that's where I'm at with it. This is a filing cabinet. It's old stuff that I want access to. Oh, Zorba Press says, does how? No, hang on. It's Howderspot, isn't it? Not Hooderspot. It's Howderspot, I think. I can't remember now. Didn't we learned how to say it, and I've forgotten which way it is. I think it's Howderspot. Find everything in all these apps. Notion, Evernote, Nimbus. No, it doesn't. But there is something that does. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, it could be Command and E. I think there's an app called Command and E, and that does search through multiple. It searches through cloud services, it searches locally, and it brings back all of that information. So that there are apps that will, but no, Howderspot doesn't. Kim says, I now see my problem is I don't take notes just to try to remember everything. I have to teach myself how to do the things all the time. Right, so you don't take notes just to try and remember everything. The way Smart Notes work is, very briefly, it's where you have notes that have context. So, for instance, let's look at these notes. Are these notes Smart Notes? No, you must be kidding. No, they're not. These were notes put in here for a specific purpose, which was I needed to do what I call patches or redos, which became known as ADRs, automatic dialogue replacement. I've done an edit. I'm not 100% happy with the edit vocally. So visually, I can work wonders in Camtasia and ScreenFlow. And you can see they were done in ScreenFlow. So I can work wonders visually, but the audio doesn't match. I've had to cut out a bit, and now the end of the bit that's left and the beginning of the next bit don't work together. So that, to me, is what a redo is. And that's what these notes were for. These are functional notes. They're not smart notes. I'm never going to need to go back to this and learn something from it or reference something from it. It was just, I threw it in there. That's what these are. Smart notes are something like... So I've had the 3rd run-in with Keynote, and it's deleting my slides. And I need to move to PowerPoint. So I sit there with Rome open. And what notes do I put in about that? What would make them smart? Well, the first thing that would make them smart is there's a daily page. So put it on there and put it underneath the time. And that way I've got the context of what day it was and what time it was before I even start. That's where the notes are. which is why in Rome, my Rome, as you can see, that's just flicked over to today. So I've got a lovely blank page. But if we look at yesterday's, this is what this looks like. It's just the notes that I made and what time that I made it. So if I was going to start that here, this is what I would do. Right, so it's 2 minutes past midnight. And what is this about? This is about Keynote and PowerPoint. So I need to think about Keynote and PowerPoint. Right, is Keynote and PowerPoint something I'm going to want to look at in the future? Oh, it is. So I've already got a tag for PowerPoint. And do I have a tag for Keynote? Yes, I do. So now what I've got at that point is it's 3 pieces of information. It's the day, it's the time, and now I've got 2 links to everything I have ever written about Keynote or everything I've ever written about PowerPoint. That's before we even get going. And then I indent underneath it. So what is Keynote doing? Keynote is deleting slides. Not just on iCloud, but locally. So in essence, I start writing myself a little story, right? Then I put down, so at this point, I'm thinking like, well, what comes next? What do I need to know? What's going through my head right now? And once you start, you won't be able to stop. So what I would need to do is, can PowerPoint replace Keynote for what I do? There's my question. And then I need to put some stuff in here. And I would just carry on like that. And that's what my notes look like. So what do I need PowerPoint to do? So the very first thing I needed PowerPoint to do was present in a live stream. So if you can imagine me putting at the start of each of these, can PowerPoint present in a live stream? What I mean by that is, are all the screens blacked out? Will it not work with the software I've got? Basically, will it work? Then I've got, can I have a template? What about the themes? And I build up a list. And then as I go through it, I add to these notes. So that's what I would call smart notes. I would then work through them and everything would be in there. And when I went looking for it, that's exactly what I had. That's exactly what I did with it. And I can do that in here. And then if I'm looking about, well, what do I think about PowerPoint? What other information have I got about PowerPoint? If I hold that down, I've got some PowerPoint things up there. And these are all my notes, all the times that I have referenced PowerPoint in my entire notes history. So I've got a spinning globe thing here for a future topic. I've got stuff on PowerPoint that's to be checked. Notice the date. More PowerPoint features to be checked. This was when I was making these notes. And it doesn't really matter when they were. As you can see, I can see all of the dates. So that's what makes smart notes. And these in here, they could be given context. I mean, when did I create that note? It doesn't particularly say there, but I've got information in here that I might be able to bring up. Note info. So there's my note info. I can even with that tells me when it was created, and that was spot on right, because I did that course in February. It also shows me down here when I edited it. So these look like my edits. It's just not quite as raw as what you get from Rome, which is nice to work with. This has a lot of overhead in terms of, oh, I've got to do it that way because the application needs me to do it that way. But in Rome, Athens, Obsidian, it's just text and you decide in what way it links to something else, not relying on something like this and a load of tags and whatever. Just a different way of working with notes. But we did say we would have a look at Smart Notes, and we will. We will have a look at Smart Notes. So if we've got no more questions about that, I will get in here. Daniela says, I still use my iMac default notes. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. You've always got stickies if you need them. Stickies is fine. Depends how many notes you've got. It really does. I mean, I've got 15,000 notes in Evernote. And I need some kind of organisation with them. Nimbus Notes is the nearest that I'll get to something that's like Evernote. But do I want to go there if I can't take them out of Nimbus Notes? And that's something I'd have to think about. But that's what it can do. So it would certainly be cheaper if I'm just using it as a filing cabinet. Right, let's get back in there. Oh, Oh, why are you not moving? Don't. Oh, you're not moving, are you? Oh, it's not moving. That's better. We got an unboxing. Don't get excited. It was only a small something. But let me make room on the desk and get rid of the iPad over there. Yes, you sit next to the hand sanitizer. And then I need to go and do magic beans, don't I? Different magic beans to Mike. Where's the mouse gone? Right. Okay, I think I can do it now. Right, let's head off into there and find the video. Not that video. That video. There we go. Hello. Right. This was rather alarming when Mike brought it in. I'll be honest. I was expecting a tiny little thing. You'll notice, it doesn't help if I hit the microphone, it's wrapped in a towel. This is because it's been deloused, COVID and all that outside. So actually, it's been covered in bleach as well. Right, okay, let's get into it. It's a huge box. It's not that exciting, trust me. I don't know why they put it in a box this big. But you can't have too much of a good thing in the unboxing, can you? So let's open it up. Maybe it's bigger than I thought it was. Oh, it's all soggy. Oh, all soggy with a mixture of bleach and hand sanitizer. Right, let's get into it. Oh, it is bigger than I thought it was. It's much bigger than I was expecting. There we go. Right. Shall we tip it all out and have a look at it? Oh, there's a lot of packaging, though, to be honest, isn't there? Look at this slot. I mean, do we really...
Sustainability much.
When's the blue bin going? That's the cardboard
About
bin.
3 weeks' time.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Right, so just in case, we'll do the hand sanitising manoeuvre. Hand sanitizer all over the desk. Right, what it is, I need to do magic with cables. My cables, they were hung on the back of a monitor and they fell off. So now they're all over the table. So I decided to get some of these. They are both for organising cables. This one is a zipped one. So you zip your cables up in it, is the plan. So let's have a look at it. I need to dry my hands now. Now I'm dripping with hand sanitizer. And I'll hand sanitize when I've finished as well. And no, I won't touch my face. Right, let's open it up. So it's like a snake. But it is zipped. That's the wrong end. That's the zip end. So you open this up and you put your cables in it. And then that stretches or stretches the other way. It can go wider by stretching it out sideways. Don't think I'm going to need that. I just want the black cables zipped up in something white. So I got 2 of those. They're a metre, those. All right, so there's 2 of those. And then there's this one, which is slightly different. All right, this is reversible. It's black and white. Let's go into it. These scissors are useless. Definitely need a new pair of scissors. Right, that should get me in. Right. And this is Velcro. And this can be black or white. So the inside is black, or depending on which way you're putting it on. Right. So we have black, we have white. And this works slightly differently. With this one, you wrap it round it. And then have it either black on the outside or white on the outside. But this one is useful because you can cut it to the length required. APG Tech it is. That could do with being a bit neater, couldn't it? But this one, where I haven't got that much cable, I can see me like cutting off 8 inches of it and then whipping it round. And while it would be grand to see it white on the outside, how long would that remain white and not filthy? So I might have to do the black thing on that. I don't know. But I'm cable sorting. So that's what I've got. And I think this one was 1.5 meters. Or was it 6 foot? 2, 3, 4, 5. That's about 6 foot. 6 foot, 6'6", something like that. So that was the very uninspired unboxing this week. But you know, cables, important. Just don't want to see them, basically. Just don't want to see them. So that's what I've got this week. I think these were about £6.
You might not find it inspiring, but Daniela does.
Oh, you don't want that kind of product down there. Oh no, cables drive you mad. I have had stuff similar to this before, and it didn't work for me. But this stuff, where it's actually like zipped, I'm hoping it'll work much better. The one I had was just too stiff, whereas this will bend round corners, and as will the Velcro one. So it's just a case of like getting them in there and leaving them to it, hopefully. It would have been better, in my opinion, although can you take that out? Let's have a look. Let's unzip it and find out. Can you take that out? That one doesn't move. Oh, you can. You can. Or can you? Yes, it's on the other side. Right, so yes, you can. Because otherwise you'd have to feed the cables through. But if you can unzip this, you can wrap it around cables without having to unplug them, which is important. So yes, you can unzip that. Otherwise it would have been the Velcro one, and this would have to have been used for something else. But there we go. Let's get that lined up and zip it up again. Awesome. Well, it will be once I've got Mike under the table dealing with it. You're up for that, aren't you? Have you noticed it's gone terribly quiet in here? Terribly, terribly quiet. Right, okay, let's head back into there. We've got a special announcement yet, so we need to get onto that. Right. Oh, you're not moving again. Why are you playing with my mind? So that's the Velcro one. Michael, put the links in. You have done. Excellent. Put the links in. Do they come in larger sizes in length? They do. They definitely had a 2 metre one, and I think they had a 3 metre one. I took the decision with the zippy one, which is this one, that you couldn't shorten them. So I thought, you know, I'll start with a metre and see how we go. But the Velcro one, you can cut to whatever length you want. And if you need to hide them for longer, you know, more than the 6 foot, you could just use 2. But I'm going to see how they go. The only one we've used up to now, which works great, but we don't have it in the office, is proper conduit. So plastic conduit that is screwed in. Only ours is sticky padded on, isn't it? Because we had to change it at one point. So that one works great if you're putting cable in. You're never, ever, ever going to touch it again. This one I'm hoping will work better when I need to adjust stuff. So there's the zippy one and the Velcro one. I'll let you know how I go with those. Doing the hand sanitising thing again now. God, it whiffs. Oh, I might have to fill that bottle again. Okay, so coming up next week. Oh, 140. Only 40 more. We can do the 180 thing again. Yes, we'll be back same time, same place next week. How is it August? It's still February 2020 in my mind. And will never be anything else. So, what have we got coming up? Well, who's heard of NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo being National Novel Writing Month in November. And I always do something for NaNoWriMo. It doesn't have to be a novel. Nobody would want to read a novel. But I might put a course together, or I might do blogs or something. What I've decided to do this time, obviously I've got MacBites the book on the burner, so I'll probably write 50,000 words for that in November. But to get everybody else up to speed, ready for NaNoWriMo, we're going to start a new Scrivener series next week. So we will start at the basics of Know Nothing. And as we head to NaNoWriMo, we'll add to that so you will know lots. So I've had a request for that only a couple of days ago. And it was specific to how I do all kinds of stuff in it rather than just books. So there's a million videos on it, but they're not doing with it what I'm doing with it, like blog posts or emails or the kind of weirdness that I do. I did mention a Scrivener announcement. I did. And there is my Scrivener announcement. It'll be starting next week. So I don't expect you to know anything at all. It's compatible with Windows, Mac and iOS. We'll try and get the iOS version into it. I do have both versions, so if you've got any questions about it, let me know. Next week, you don't have to know a thing. You don't even have to know what Scrivener is. But I'll tell you what it is. It's for writers. It's a writer's toolkit. It doesn't matter what you're writing. It's a writer's toolkit. So think about things, metadata that you have about anything that you're writing. And you may have your research, you may have keywords, you may have links, you may have sites you want to visit. All of that can go into Scrivener. And it's a joy to use. You won't lose anything, and you've got everything where you need it, when you need it. So we're going to start with the very basics and take it all the way up to compiling, which is the one and only, the compiling.
Can I just say Simon's dropped a hint into the chat?
What's that?
With a birthday cake icon.
Oh.
Yes, we know it's your birthday next week, Simon. It's mine the week after.
We wouldn't forget that, would we? Oh, no. No, we wouldn't. Right, so that's next week. In the meanwhile, on demand, you can find everything that we've already done at youtube.com/ElaineGiles. We also have the MacBites After Hours playlist, which is available at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist. Also, of course, Marooned at MacBites headquarters. We finished on Wednesday, but that doesn't mean you can't relive it. All of it. You saw me publish the last one tonight. That is the feed that you can put into any of your podcatchers, and you will have access to all 500 episodes and listen at your will. So you could always listen again, Simon. You could, if you really wanted to. All of those are available on the website as well. So if you'd rather just listen on the website, they're available on macbites.fm. In the meanwhile, we love you guys. If you love us and you have enjoyed tonight, then give us a like, because it really does make a difference with YouTube, who seem to have a mind of their own when it comes to likes and stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 minute they're there, next minute they've gone. Last week there was 19, and when I came in on Saturday morning there was 1, and I said to Mike, was it something I said? but they came back after that, so they're just playing with my mind. Right, all things related to what I'm doing, you need to go to elainegiles.com/VIP, and then you will get a mail about it all, including details of what I'm planning for the Scrivener series. There is also macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail, which is all things MacBites related, like Tuesday at 8 o'clock and things like that. Can we use the next week hashtag yet?
If you like.
Yeah, it'd only get Johnny excited. Right, we're also available in Slack 24/7, carrying on the conversation. And I really was in Slack, carrying on the conversation. 7 o'clock last night and 7 o'clock Thursday and 7 o'clock Friday. Because my watch said you should be in Marooned, and I haven't taken off the repeating alarm yet, so that's where I was. Right, you can contact us at all of those places, and we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from things you've enjoyed, things that you do not enjoy, and things that you would like us to cover. Do let us know. So let me bring this chat back so I can see it.
Daniela, Carol wants to know why you'd use Scrivener over Ulysses, and Daniela says, if I write a blog for my webpage, can I upload it from Scrivener to the WordPress page?
Oh, right. Why would I choose Scrivener against Ulysses?
And Simon says Ulysses is in setup.
It is. It is. Right. Why would I use Scrivener over Ulysses? Ulysses is great. It is. For particular types of writing. It does not have
I use it, so it must be great.
It does not have enough meta for the kind of projects that I do. While Scrivener, I could write a blog post, and if it's a complicated blog post, I probably would. But Scrivener doesn't allow me to publish directly to WordPress. Not directly. It will do it, but not directly. In Ulysses, I can push a button, and then I've got a blog post. But Scrivener doesn't do that. But Scrivener excels in other ways. Now, Daniela's saying, if I write a blog for the webpage, can I upload Scrivener to your webpage? What you would do is you would use the compile function, which takes what you've written, whatever it looks like, in as many pieces as you like, and you can compile it to a format that WordPress will understand. And then you go to WordPress and you copy and paste it in. There is unfortunately no link between Scrivener and WordPress. I don't know whether he'll ever add that. It's 4 years since the last major update, but he doesn't update this that often. It would be nice if he did, and it would be nice if it supported Markdown natively. But the fact is, right now, it doesn't. And the developer of Scrivener is very much his own person. If what you're asking him as a feature has no value to him, it's not happening. So for him, he always wants to compile it out and then do something with it. So I do use both Scrivener and Ulysses, and both have their advantages and their disadvantages, and things they're strong at and things they're not. You might find it strange that we've got the blog posts in Ulysses and the email in Scrivener. Why would you do an email in Scrivener? But the thing is, the way that I have it configured, there were so many mistakes, weren't there, when we were just doing it as text. But it's now done visually, but when I make it export, when I do this compile, it creates the HTML, and that's it. We don't need to do a thing with it. So I can show you all of that, because that was particularly some of the questions that I got about the compile. Simon says Scrivener does look awesome. It is very, very good. Considering the price of it, I don't know. It would be worth easy 10 times that. And there are applications like Final Draft that are 10 times the price. And some people use both. But Scrivener is totally amazing. The thing with Scrivener is it can be complete overkill when you start. And I remember looking at it. I looked at it when it was in alpha. It wasn't even really a thing. It was just this guy that had thrown some code together. And I thought, that looks amazing. And I remember trying to think, what should I put there? And you know, you've got keywords, you've got a synopsis, you've got an outline, you've got all this metadata. It's like, well, what should I use that bit for? What should I use that bit for? And if you're asking that, then you're looking at it the wrong way. Look at it differently. You've got all these features, use them if it makes sense. If it doesn't, leave them alone. So one of the things that I very seldom use is keywords, because I've got it organised in such a way I just don't need them. You know, it would be overkill to do that. There would be no benefit. It would just take time to do and have absolutely no benefit. But we will look at that, and we will look at it in relation to Ulysses and why you might want to use Ulysses, and certainly how you will get it on a blog. Okay. Oh, we've got double birthdays here, by the look of it.
We have.
Is your toy working again?
Which toy?
The one in the browser that you broke.
No.
Oh, it's totally broken.
It's totally broken.
Oh no, that's not good.
I'll have to do it manually tomorrow.
Okay. You don't know how to use Ulysses. Don't worry about it. I will show you that as well. Okay, I am catching up here. Yes, happy birthday for Wednesday to both of you. I wonder what I can find for Simon. Oh, a framed photo of Boris with the brolly. It just needs to go above your computer, Simon. It'll be fabulous. And at the same time, I'll get the other one, the front of today's Star, framed for D. Have you seen the front of today's Star?
I saw it in Slack earlier.
The Daily Star has become a thing of wonder, hasn't it? I don't know how they get away with printing that kind of stuff. I really don't. But they do, so there you go. Oh, Daniela, as a photographer, writes blog posts as well. Well, I'll show you the difference between them. You could do it either way. You could even write it in the back end of WordPress. You used to. I never do that. But there's lots of different ways to do it. It depends how automated you want it, how comfortable you are writing it in Markdown and stuff like that. But we will do that. A brolly. A brolly is an umbrella, Kim. And it was the one that Boris had inside out. He was supposed to be at this really serious event where it was memorialising a police officer who died, I think. And Prince Charles is sat there looking, you know, like the elegant prince that he is, with a little umbrella on top of him. And Boris is sat next to him with a monstrosity that looks like a garden parasol inside out. Oh, the embarrassment. Simon can't find the horrified emoji. Not one that could express that degree of horror, I don't think, Simon. But that is what we've got coming up anyway. Oh, yeah, I think we'll have to have a special birthday thing here. That one times 10, I think, Debbie, would just about cover Simon's horror with the brolly. Yeah, you have a fantastic birthday, Daniela. Exporting HTML would be fine, as the website doesn't use WordPress. It can produce, you can actually do amazing things if you just want HTML. So you could certainly export it, Carol, and have all of the formatting in there in CSS, which is exactly what we do with the email. So that's going to be probably one of the last 4 sessions about compiling. I might do a quick compile at the beginning so you can see what you get. But what it can do out of the box is pretty good. But what you can do when you understand it and you can program it a little bit is amazing. So what we were doing was I could copy out the email, But obviously it's like, well, are the links there? And where's the CSS? And that needs to be a button. All of that comes from Scrivener. I've got images coming from Scrivener. I've got code coming from Scrivener. I've got a button coming from Scrivener. And all we have to do is push a button, export, drag it into Notion, and then Mike takes it and sends the email, and that's it. So yes, I do magic with the compile. I once mentioned the kind of thing you could do at the beginning of an intro session, and that was it. People were gone. They didn't care about the basics then. It was like, I want to do that. But it's like, well, do you actually have a need to produce an email? I don't care. I want to do it. Now I know I can do it. I want to do it. The principles of how you would do that with an email would carry straight through to the HTML. And the HTML side of it is kind of twofold. You can either use the real basic stuff that you get, and your website will format things like the headings and the paragraphs and any code that you use, or you could do it where it actually pushes out the CSS with it and do it that way. Oh, Daniela says, thank you very much. Just sharing with you all will make it a small tip with your hobby for the day. To the ocean, to photography. Ocean birds. Oh, ocean birds. That sounds fantastic. Oh, Simon, you've got other skills. You're to music what Tracy is to languages. It's all amazing. It is. So happy birthday to anybody who has got a birthday this week. Mike's is coming up, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. I guess I better be thinking about a gift, hadn't I? But for the man who's been locked up with only me for company and the dog for the last 17 months, honestly don't know what else he could possibly want, do you?
True.
Probably another Toblerone. It might be Toblerone time, we'll see. Oh, wildlife photographer, definitely, definitely. Oh, Carol, we need to see these.
I've got a team meeting on my birthday.
Well, that just gives them an opportunity to give you gifts, doesn't it? Eh? So, Carol, are you going to book club? Oh, no, you're bringing a blanket. Oh, it wasn't even Bo. Good grief, could you imagine that would have been a Bo session? Oh, we would have needed.
Carol said she gave up after 2 hours.
It was officially over after 2 hours. They went into what they called office hour, which was clearly 4.
Carol's bed was calling, I think.
So was mine, but I got to the point where it's like, I've stuck this out for 4 hours and I'm not giving up now. Needed to see how long it went on for. Connor started to panic that the video would fail. So he pressed stop on the recording so he could press start again. But then that stupid voice came up with, this meeting is being recorded, and that freaked everybody out. Oh, it was funny. Gotta be done. Gotta be done. Okay. Yes, you'll be back at book club. Have you done your page yet? I've managed to get my page on, but I've not done any writing this week. I need to sort that out. But maybe I will do some of that tomorrow before by request, and we'll see how we go. I have actually read the book, which, you know, I know it's a book club and people, that does sound strange, doesn't it? But you understand, Carol, reading the book, not actually obligatory to be a part of book club. But I have actually read the book, and the language in it is so dated. Oh, and he doesn't half go on about his points. And I looked at it and I thought, I'm going to have to turn this into like a mind map to work my way through it and then go back and make the notes from it, because some of it's just impenetrable. It's a bit wordy. He keeps going on about the same things multiple times. And I think it could be made a bit shorter at the beginning. Oh, wow. Right, okay then. Well, hopefully... you've done some, but you're already behind. Well, I'm always behind. But I looked at the first few and it didn't inspire me, to be honest. But I know I need to do it, but I'm a visual person. So the writing prompts that they gave were more like you'd read this particular paragraph. And I must admit, you said you've read chapter... I think I'm up to chapter 5, but I haven't done any notes at all at the moment. But I must admit, did I cheat a bit? I got the audiobook. Now, if you're wondering, there's no audiobook. But if you just look on YouTube, there's an audiobook. It says cassette 1 and cassette 2. So it's as old as the book. At least it's not reel to reel. But it's not bad. It's not bad. I listened to it speeded up a bit, but it's not bad. So I definitely need to get round to doing some notes, so I will do that. Oh, Lens Baby. I've heard of Lens Baby, but I haven't got any. have to rectify that as well, won't I? Right, okay then, we are going to head off. So happy birthday to anybody with a birthday this week. Mike's is the week after, so we'll have something organised for that, won't we, Mike?
Thursday the 12th, Friday the 13th.
It could have been much worse. It could have been Friday the 13th, but then that would have been show day. So we'll sort that out, and
Peter wants to know if you found what your stray power lead was off.
No, not yet. Because what I thought it was off, which was the hub, it wasn't. Because I then found what that was for. So I still have a power cable in a brown box, and I have no idea what it's for. Hopefully, I'll find something under the detritus on the desk and be able to update you next week. So fingers crossed on that one. Remind me, Peter, because I'm bound to forget. Remind me. But for the moment, I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe,
guys.